Hello, and welcome to the very 11th episode of the second newest show on the Stat Check Network. It's episode 11 of Take All Comers, Lightning McDream. Ka-chow. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the Dreamhack Dallas event. It was a lot of fun. But before we get into any of that, I gotta check in with the boys. How are we doing today, Lucas?
The voice of a man whose mental's just been completely kaboom over the course of 2 hours this on Saturday morning.
You get your coffee yet, dude? Someone get this
He's
man a fresh bottle of
already
coffee
drinking something else, let me tell you that. Let's go, dude.
Oh,
all right, I'm doing okay. Yeah, Dallas was an absolute blast. And the week since has been definitely a little bit of a struggle. The travel difficulties going to Dallas, which I'm sure we'll talk about, really just meant I was kind of tired this whole week, so it's finally catching up with me, and I'm having a slow morning. But excited to talk about some 40K with the boys. So it's gonna be a fun morning. How you doing, Nick?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine this was a week ago. It has been a long week, and I'm excited to settle into the weekend and begin the weekend talking about one of my favorite games, Warhammer, the 40,000th, and all of the fantastic, all the interesting changes coming to the game, and also talk about Dreamhack, because Dreamhack was a lot of fun, and kind of, going to events always does a really great job, like revitalizing interest in the game for me, and so, past week through tiredness, like thinking through different lists and that sort of thing while eagerly awaiting what sweeping changes are coming to the game. So yeah, excited to talk about it here with you guys and have some people chime on in. How about you, Tyler? How are you doing now?
Well, I'm alive. I've got my iced coffee and my triple whiskey, and some combination of those things are going to make me feel better, or so I'm told. Yeah, this event was a ton of fun. I'm going to talk a lot about old GSC because that army was a ton of fun. But I think my favorite line in the three-body problem, this is not a conquest. It is a funeral procession. Yeah, my favorite army that I've been playing has been removed from the game. My other favorite army has suffered some noticeable nerfs, and they're actively trying to kill my favorite playstyle for the 11,000th time. And I hate the new missions for a lot of reasons. We'll talk about all that later. So I'm overall not having a good time in terms of Warhammer Big Picture, which is a bummer, because if you had asked me a week ago when we got out of this event, I was on top of the world. This event was awesome. I'm very excited to talk about it. But here we go. It is what it is. We'll obviously do a lot more coverage on all the new nonsense and our thoughts on it once we have the full picture, right? It seems disingenuous to me to really dig into the GSC book. God damn it, Kim, I'm not going to play Spider-Man. Fucking hell. I refuse to play Marvel Crisis Protocol out of principle at this point. It does sound cool, though. Anyway, it seems disingenuous to me to really dig into GSC and try to find some sauce there until we have points, because as people continue to point out, this book is going to receive some significant points cuts. So, it's hard to see things without knowing what those are going to be. Obviously, there's also a slate coming and an MFM in total. So, we're not going to get too deep into that. We will brush on it, though, for sure, once we talk about this event. Yeah, so let's get right into it. What the hell is Dreamhack? What are we doing over here? What's going on? Who can give me a breakdown of what the hell this event was?
So I can get us started with some of the basics. So Dreamhack is an esports event that's held at various places throughout the globe. I think there's one in Malta. There's one in Malmo, which I'm pretty sure is in Sweden, and one of the places they always come back to is Dallas in Texas. And this year, through the hard work of the National Tabletop League in the United States, as well as some other affiliated organizations, they decided to put on a 4-team Warhammer Teams event, which was Pro Tabletop, the US, Team USA, Art of War, and the Midwest Alliance all traveled to Dallas last weekend. It was like June 1st and 2nd to play in a 3-round team event, which was really fun. This was streamed on the Tabletop Tortoise YouTube channel. So Tabletop Tortoise, I believe that's what it's called.
Tactical Tortoise.
Tortoise, yeah.
A tactical tortoise.
They all use the same words, just like slightly different combinations. So
I think he's the only one that uses tortoise. Also, it does say Tactical Tortoise on the screen right now.
You know what? Fuck you, Tyler. You got a response to that, buddy? Respect, dude. I like it. So, yeah, the Tactical Tortoise YouTube channel. So if you want to watch any of these VODs, including myself on stream, you can go and watch those VODs. They were good fun. So, yeah, this was kind of in the same convention hall as there was like a big Overwatch tournament going on. The IEM Dallas for Counter-Strike is huge every single year. So all those folks were kind of coming in and out of our hall as they made their way between places and kind of seeing what 40K was about a little bit, which was really fun. The goal of this was obviously less so about competition and much more so about reaching new people with the glories and fun times that come with tabletop gaming. So there was a lot of that going on.
Very hyped. So this is going to be a little bit of a different breakdown than we usually do for events because it is a team event and it is this wonky invitational thing. We're going to break down a little bit about what our pairing was, how we got into it, what the prediction was as for that, our thoughts going in, and then we'll talk about how the game went and how it went from there. So here's a quick shot of us on our I don't remember. There's our way tour back from the event. This is a fun photo. 11 to choose from, and Nick was making a ridiculous face in all of them. I think this is the best one. But overall, I'll talk about the event up front. Was a really good time. We've got these fancy badges saying we're cool special guests, which was really, really snazzy. We were definitely treated pretty darn well there. This event is being played on NTL layout terrain and stuff. It was all very nice terrain. It was very pretty. There only being one stream table was kind of silly, if I'm being honest, when you're like, hey, we're going to have 16 awesome games happening at all times. He kind of bounced around with this like wireless webcam thing, but without having anyone who's like table bossing out and about, Trevi had no idea what was happening anywhere. I'll talk about this a little bit more when I get into my round one game, because I went back and watched the VOD, and every time they checked in, there's no idea, which like not his fault, but like not a phenomenal stream for the outsider. For the people who were attending the event, it was awesome because people just got to walk up, check stuff out. We were encouraged to talk to people about, what Warhammer is and what's going on. A lot of people that I talked to were like, sweet, how do I buy into this? It was very cool. People are excited. So it was a very cool thing. I think also before we jump into the list, we can talk a little bit about the logistics on the front end, at least. Our flight, what was our plan? Our flight was initially planned for like 1:45 to get there at 7:45 because 4-hour flight, 2-hour time difference. And then we got delayed 3 hours, got in at midnight, something like that.
No, we got in at like 10.
We got in at 10.
It wasn't that bad. Yeah. But it was,
right. Yeah.
It was still like, will the plane arrive from Dallas or not? Time to find out.
And then, I know Anthony talked about it on the main show, but him and Sean had the crazy thing where their flight got straight canceled. They had to get rerouted to Houston and then rent a car and drive 3.5 hours to arrive at 1 o'clock in the morning. That was very silly. Dukes and Castra coming in from Vancouver. I think they drove into SeaTac and then flew from there. Their flight got canceled and got rebooked to arrive at 5 o'clock in the morning. So props to them for doing well on 1 hour's sleep. But yes, Dallas is a mess of a place to travel to, in large part due to increasingly erratic weather patterns exacerbated by climate change. But that aside, really cool event. So let's get into some lists here. Starting off with myself, apparently. I didn't order these. So I'm playing GSC. And people have been telling me that aberrants are bad for a really long time, and they've been right the whole time. The problem is I haven't found anything better. People who don't play aberrants usually are playing just more acolytes and neophytes, and I hate that. Acolytes and neophytes without characters feel awful. They're not good at anything. And instead, just having a Brick of Aberrance does a totally unique thing I like a lot. But we finally figured out what to take instead of them. Talked about this in the past. It is laser cars. Ridge Runners with mining lasers are fantastic. They're still fantastic in the new book. Nothing about them has changed. So if you don't own them yet, and for some reason you still want to play GSC, you should buy them. But yeah, here's the list. Here's how it works. We got a Jackal Alphys who hands out real ones to hit to those guys. She's a bit of a memer, but like only a bit. I was actually very happy with her over the course of the entire event because she fire and fades. Also Scout 9 with a heavy sniper rifle, just like does nice things. We got an Exos. We got 3 Primuses, one of which has Inscrutable Cunning, like I talked about last week. This allows for the Primus with Inscrutable Cunning plus an Exos Neophyte unit, which just absolutely incredible. I miss it so much already. If you want to see how that unit plays, check out the bit rep that Lucas and I put out last week. Not bit rep, stat rep that Lucas and I put out last week of GSC into Bully Boys. That unit is awesome. We got a pair of Reductus Abichuas, 2x10 Acolytes with bombs, 2x20 Neophytes with grenades and seismics, 2 squads of 2 Ridge Runners with mining lasers and spotters. So the BS3, a single Ridge Runner with a mortar and a survey auger to turn off cover so that those laser Ridge Runners can be AP4 ignores cover on turn 1. Squad of 5 Pure Strains, 10 Cadians, 10 Catachins, 2 Cyclops Demolition Vehicles, and 2 Tarox Transports to put those Cyclops Demolition Vehicles, Catachins, and Cadians inside of at various times. This list is perfect. I have no notes. I love it so much, and I miss it dearly. Yeah. Anyway, Nick, what are you playing?
Oh, I'm playing the most fascinating Necrons list ever put on the face of this earth. Just kidding. It's 18 wraiths. So I've got 3 Technomancers, 1 with Infiltrate. I've got the aforementioned 18 wraiths, and then the 3 Doomstalkers. This is where it gets a little interesting, I guess. That's like the core of most Canoptic Court lists at this point. They're very efficient. Why would you change them? I opted to go for the Silent King for this tournament. Those who don't know, the Silent King is basically the gigantic 3 model guy who's like a vehicle that floats around. And a lot of people were wondering like what he provides for the list. Which is a good question. So what he does for the list is he gives out a 6-inch aura of either ignore modifiers, reroll 1s to hit and wound, or reroll charges +1 strength. Kind of in that order of usefulness. So ignoring mods is really good on the Doomstalkers because they're already super efficient. When they're wholly within the matrix, they're hitting on 4s, rerolling everything. If they stood still, they're hitting on 3s, rerolling everything. And a lot of like the few counters out there for that is -1 to hit, -1 to wound, -1 to incoming AP, and they stand next to the Silent King, and he just says, no, you ignore all that. So good to go. Especially because we're playing NTL layouts, which are like GW layouts 1 through 4, and then like modified layouts with GW terrain, known as layouts 5 through 8. Those usually have like wide open firing lanes. So the Doomstalker plus Silent King firing package I thought would be like very good on this terrain format. For my trash, I got 3 squads of 3 Scarabs. They're good. I got 5 Death Marks to have some deep striking trash for more secondary play, and then I've got 5 flayed ones for some infiltrating trash for again more different like secondary play. That's it. Pretty good.
It sure does the thing. Lucas, tell us a little bit about your famous Chaos Knights.
Let's go, baby. We're playing Orcs. We're playing the green side for this tournament. This is the same list that I took to Gongai, so I won't go super in depth, but I'll just run through the roster real quick. We've got 3 War Bosses with Claws and Attack Squigs, 2 Pain Boys, 2 Weird Boys, 1 with Brutal but Cunning for CP, 1 with Bloodthirsty Belligerents for bonuses to movement. We've got a Mega Armored War Boss with Raucous Warcaller, so that is Mega Nobs roll 1s to saving throws. 5 squads of 20 boys, and then a squad of 10 boys. We got a truck, we got a wagon, we got 11 Gretchen, we got 5 Mega Nobs with saws to go with the Maw Boss, and we've got 5 Storm Boys with a claw. So some glorious green tide. If you want to hear more about this list, check out our Gongai GT recap 2 weeks ago. You can see all 10 pixels of me in the forest talk about this for a little while.
One of the things that we had talked about then and a lot since has been whether or not the Mega Nob squad has a place in this list. What was your thought process on sticking with it for this particular event, especially in a teams format? And then how are we feeling about it at present?
So I didn't, the main reason to cut them is to find easy points for a 3rd Pain Boy, which I just didn't have the model for this event. So that was one reason to stick with the Mega Knobs. I think Mega Knobs are a fantastic choice in singles, where sometimes you just need to kill units in your opponent's army. I don't think they're optimal for teams because they kind of aren't doing what Green Tide really wants to do, and I'd much rather spend those 300 points on scoring units and better support characters. But I think for singles play, they're totally valuable. They give you a great tool for dealing with Land Raiders, which are pretty good in the meta right now, which are otherwise kind of a problem for your big bricks with their strength 6 and 2 damage flamers. So just being able to go, all right, Land Raider, you're dead, is really cool. So I think the Mega Knobs are great. I think they're not quite optimal in teams, but in singles play, they're an excellent choice.
You still need that Pain Boy?
I just bought one.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, fun list.
Very cool. Well, let's jump on in. And round one, we are starting off with an easy tee-up of a match. We are playing Art of War. And if you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, aren't a lot of the Art of War guys on Team USA? Correct. We kind of they got divvied up. The rosters, I guess we didn't even go over our roster here as a team. We've got the three of us playing the armies as described, but in addition to that, we've got Mr. Anthony Vanella of Stat Check and Art of War playing World Leaders. We've got our boy Brian Jones out here rocking Imperial Knights because someone has to, and he's a legend. We got Jonathan Lennon playing his Tyranids. That's part of why I'm playing GSC, so he can play Nids. And then we got a little-known man by the name of Jonathan Naden playing Eldar. And then our boy Zach Kerstetter, who we got to have a lot of fun with this weekend, playing Blood Angels. So that's our 8. Playing into Art of War. Art of War's roster is Alexander McDougall on GSC. They've got Jackery Harpster on World Leaders. They got the man, the myth, the Castra on Vanguard Ultramarines. They've got Nicholas Nanavati on Demons, very silly Demons list. They've got Typhus, like literally the man from Poland, out here playing for Art of War on Yanari for some reason. They've got Quentin Johnson on Death Guard. They've got Richard Siegler on Tau, playing Malka, and they've got Sasha
Edelkraut, yeah.
Edelkraut, yeah. Sasha Edelkraut on Sisters of Battle. And the mission is going to be search and destroy hidden supplies prios. So real easy to score your 10s, real easy to score primary in general. Not usually a very big blowout-y kind of mission. Games are going to be pretty close, but your secondaries matter a lot as the primary is kind of just what it is. So let's jump right into it and see how it goes. Starting off with myself playing into Quentin, Lucas as our resident Death Guard player. What do you think about this list? What's in it?
So this is a somewhat quintessential 30 Marine, 30 Plague Scholar list. What?
It's Quentin essential.
Good one, dude. Nicely done. We've got 2 Future Fires, 3 Flamer Blight Spawns, 1 Plague Caster with Living Plague, Typhus, 3 squads of 10 Plague Marines with Meltaguns, 3 Rhinos, 20 Cultists, 2 Plague Spitter Drones, and 3 PBCs with Entropy. So this list has no Predators, very notably, but it does have the triple indirect threat, and it does have the 30 Plague Marines, including a Super Flamer squad, which is kind of built for Overwatch. So very cool.
Yeah, especially those 3x10 Plague Marines. 2 of them have Melta, 1 of them has Flamers. Did you say that? You probably said that. No? Yeah, that's a fun thing. So the Super Flamer squad also has all the Flamers on the guys, so it really is as many Flamers as possible. Which was some cute tech. I took this matchup pretty comfortably. I had it down as a purple, if I'm not mistaken. Bortel, Quentin. Yeah, I had this as a purple, which is to USA speak for a playable game. Right, somewhere in the 10 to 12 kind of range. There's definitely potential upside, but also potential downside. Death Guard historically can be a bit of a problem for GSC because A, they're in a lot of transports, and B, they have a lot of hit mods. Quentin took -1 weapon skill ballistic skill, which he thinks was the wrong choice. I maintain is the correct choice. So that all of my stuff hits on 6s natively within range. Very bad, very scary, like all the things that GSC don't like. But they also have the thing that GSC does like, which is they're a bunch of idiots in power armor running around dying. And they have a very limited, very avoidable threat range. And this GSC list is all about getting to rinse and repeat neophytes over and over and over and over again. And hard capping at 17-inch threat is a really bad way to avoid that happening. So in theory, there's some good stuff here. Quinton had this down as a green for himself. He thought he was going to kick my butt, and he was wrong. Let's go. So here's the game. If you watch this on, if you watch the bits of this that show up on Trevi's stream, I've got a screenshot here from that. He keeps saying that I'm getting my ass kicked because there are Plague Burst crawlers on the table. I guess. I don't know. We're going to blow some stuff up. I get to go first here, and this was a great example of a matchup where the laser cars are incredible because Quentin did not at all expect what the laser cars did, which was deploy on the line, go first, scout 9, move 12, shoot, and charge. So top of one, I blow up one of his 3 rhinos. Another one, he pops a -1 to hit on, and I roll all 3s to hit. Sad. Fair enough. So only one's down, but the laser cars are in combat with another one, and they're lined up to shoot at a third. And then turn on his bottom one, he ends up falling back over, and I drop in with my bomb squad with the Primuses because like it is now or never. And I kill both of the other rhinos, which was great. So all 3 rhinos are dead, top of 2, and that's all you need to do against Death Guard as a GSC player. We just rinse and repeat with neophytes, just drop in, shoot, drop in, shoot, drop in, shoot, drop in, shoot, and just keep killing things while scoring points. Unfortunately, I end up clocking out in this game. That was one of the downsides of this event, is that we were not especially clear about what the clock rules were. Like we were told, okay, if people are going to come up and chit-chat, pause the clock. I didn't do that, which was to my detriment. So like at top of 5, I have like 8 minutes on my clock. I'm like, all right, that's plenty. And then like Nick comes by and we start chatting. Not Avati, not Olsen Johnson. And then suddenly I look down at my clock and I have like 2 minutes left. I'm like, oh, well, that's on me. So we kind of just throw some stuff forward and try to score a bunch of points. If that doesn't happen, I deny him another 10 points probably. And this goes from what it was, which was a 13-7 to like a 15-5 kind of situation, because this was a blowout at the end of the day. At the end of this game, Quentin has like 2 PVCs alive, and I have both of my neophyte bricks. Great. And some other stuff. He ended up taking Assassinate and deploy Teleport homers. Assassinate is fine. 4 of those points he should not have been able to get, but that's on me and the clock. But the homers were really tricky for him because he just kept having to devote every unit that he could to places, especially once I start jamming stuff into the middle. He's not going to have a very easy time just dropping stuff in. I spent a lot of my time screening out Typhus wholly out of my DZ, which is a lot easier on table quarters than on other deployment types, because once Typhus gets in there, he's just free homers every turn. And as you can see in the scoreboard, that ended up working out really well because Quentin didn't get homers on turns 2 or 5, and he just got midfields turn 1 and 3. So he got a 10 on homers, which really hampers him here. Still a good amount of primary. Like I said, some of that could have been prevented if we don't clock out. But ends up working out pretty darn well for me overall. 97-85. This was a really fun game. This was exactly what the army was designed to deal with, as opposed to the old one. With Aberrants instead of Ridge Runners, this is a loss, like 9 times out of 10. But they provide the solution to all of the problems that that GSC used to have. So very cool game, a lot of fun. Really enjoyed how all the pieces work together here. Unfortunately, it just doesn't end up mattering. There is one moment that needs to be talked about because it was hilarious, though, which is that my Reductus has been chilling out. You can kind of see her right up on top of this, on top of this little ruin. She's kind of back there just chilling. Oh, no, she's actually behind the plate entirely. You can see her and her little token there. She ends up running up and standing on that objective and being like, all right, I'm doing my loan up thing. What are you going to do about it? And Quentin drives up his PVC after killing the Tarox that's going to be move blocking it for a turn there. Gets within 12, puts the mortar into her and everything else that it tanks to blow it up. Mortar gets 4 hits, 4 wounds, and she, and he drops in Typhus to zap her. Typhus zaps, rolls a 2 to do like D6 mortal wounds, rolls a 1, so only does 1 mortal wound. She's down to 2 health left. The mortar shoots her with everything. 4 hits, 4 wounds. I'm in cover though, so I got a 5-up save, baby, and I hit all 4 of them. She fails one of them and she dies, but she hits all of them.
Game.
Like, oh, that's unfortunate. Interesting. Okay, and then I look at her like, all right, yeah. he also runs up his biologist Putrefier, who I don't know if maybe he tried to grenade her and did 0, or if he had already done the grenades and he was just running them up there. Oh, no. Yeah, he runs up the grenades guy, throws the free grenades, and does 1 more mortal wound. So she's still alive on 1.
You're
with that guy staring at her. She's invincible, dude. It's fine because my other one died to a rhino explosion before she got to do anything. It was very silly.
The
so,
classic.
She just kind of absorbed the power. It's the duality of this character. Anyway, so then on my turn, she's just like, all right, I'm not going to move because I've only got 1 wound left, but I'll free grenades your free grenades guy. Does 4 mortals, kills him instantly. All right, I'm just going to sit here. We're going to be just fine. Still hasn't thrown her demo charge because she doesn't need to. All right, you want to come over here, boys? And he's like, yeah, I have to. And there's no way that Typhus can go any direction other than straight backwards without setting off the landmine. And it's like turn 3 or 4. He has to have Typhus. It's bottom 3. And Typhus might even be bottom 4. Typhus has to come forward. Typhus then trips on the landmine, explodes, flat 6 mortals. Typhus is removed from the game. Just immediately.
Bummer, dude.
Yeah, I personally hate being the first captain of the Death Guard and surviving for 10,000 years just to step on a claymore and instantly die. Do you know that in the lore, Typhus has been like multiple times eviscerated by Mortarion and just like regenerates and survives, and meanwhile he just gets one-shotted by the goofy claymore.
Well, don't worry. She's a lot worse in the new book. But yeah, very funny. Look, she will have a 5 of invuln, so she'll be able to make more saves, which is very sexy. Anyway, silly game in that respect, but overall, real fun stuff. Really favorable matchup for GSC, especially going first. Love it. This is the kind of Warhammer I wanted to play forever, but unfortunately, we will not be doing that. Anyway, round 1, Mr. Olsen Johnson is playing into Kasra, who is fielding the good old-fashioned Vanguard Ultramarines. Lucas, you played this army before. What do you give us a rundown on Kasra's list?
Yeah, so Castra's playing Vanguard. He has a Harm Assist with Blade Driven Deep and Calgar. So this is the very standard infiltrate squad. They're going to be joined to 6 Eradicators. He's got Ventress, who's going to be joining the Company Heroes. He's got the 6 Devastator Centurions that he'll be giving Deep Strike. The aforementioned Company Heroes, 6, 3, and 3 Eradicators. So 2 squads of 3 just to play interference and be skirmishing units. 2 squads of 6 Plasma Inceptors. So this guy just really hates elite stuff and vehicles. We got 5 Infiltrators and 3 squads of 5 Scouts. So very similar to the list that Lennon was playing toward the end of 2023, going into January. Very notable. This list does not have a lot of anti-infantry, but it does have a ridiculous amount of quality anti-tank shooting. So a really cool list, honestly. How'd this go, Nick?
Yeah, so I had this down as a tie, basically. And because that was kind of what we wanted to hit in the Matrix, there wasn't any reason to try to mega overextend. Because it's prios with 6 objectives, it's really hard to deny primary in this game. I think you have to deny 10 for them to get a 45 or something crazy. Assuming they get 10, yeah, all the other turns. Assuming they get 15 at the end, I guess that is. Which, as soon as I went first, it was okay, am I gonna ever deny both these objectives or 2 of these twice? He also same kind of thing. I had this big scary fire base of triple Doomstalker and King. We were playing on GW layout 4, so they're basically all sitting there behind that L in your DZ, with the wide open firing lane through the middle. Kasser kind of did the same thing where he put the big 6 Eradicator squad with Calgar and the Harm Assist just sitting behind one of his midfield staging ruins because they infiltrate. So we were both kind of staring at each other and we're okay, whoever sends the first unit and it gets blown up by the other person's firing base. But I have a little bit more of a harder time with that because if I send 12 Wraiths out across the side to his DZ, right? They're behind the wall. My firebase can't come support them anymore. And he can just drop in Plas Scepters and Dev Sense back there where I can't counter shoot him. So this game is me trying to draw out the Dev Sense and the Plas Scepters, hopefully as quickly as possible. So then I can blast Wraiths over to those objectives and try to get more than a 10 out of this. And also hopefully that lines up with my secondary draws. So my secondary draws are very neutral early, and I'm just okay. He's popping Dev Sense around. I think I end up killing the Dev Sense like turn 2 with Doomstalkers. He's trying to get them to take long range shots at Doomstalkers, but like he's not killing them. And so the Dev Sense are gone. Then I think he draws behind, and he's like, cool, this is the perfect time. I'm going to drop my Plasceptors in behind your lines and try to kill the Doomstalkers. And he manages to kill 2, and I was like, that's unfortunate. And then I kill all the Plasceptors. So now the Plasceptors are dead, the Devs are dead. It's time for the raids to go in, and I draw Storm Hostile. And so my raids go in. He does the funny, haha, my scout screen charges, so your first raid squad fails its charge. And I'm like, yep. That's, the Vanguard classic where they scout screen the thing you actually want to charge, and then they hop in the little hole, and now you can't legally complete your charge because you can't end within a 1, but they're still a legal target. And why is this still in the game, GW? But anyways, so that fails. So my second raid squad runs in, doesn't get quite enough OC on to Storm Hostile, just because of like how much shit's on there. But now we have, I think, heading into turn like 4, like just a bunch of wraiths in his backfield. We scrap for a bit. I think I end up denying 5 at some point, but like it doesn't really matter because I don't deny 10. And he's just able to get the 15 at the end because he does manage to clear up my wraiths through like 3 rounds of fighting. I don't think he kills them all, but he like does enough damage to them to get the objectives back. So this ends in the most like 10-10 you've ever freaking seen, where it's 93-92 for the Necrons. Yeah, not much to say about this. Just kind of like identified there weren't any like huge pushes. He played very carefully and very cagey. Outside of the 1 turn, he's like, I'm going to drop these Plasceptors in and try to blast your firing base. But yeah, it was a fun game. I never played Castra. We've been like floating around, not pairing into each other for a while at tournaments, so it was fun getting to play him here.
Yeah, Casper's a G. This looks like a fun game. I'm honestly surprised this ended in a tie. Do you think that's kind of an like a product of the mission? Because this feels like a very volatile matchup to me, where he like, especially with the King, you're kind of just like vaporizing his units, but he's also got so much quality shooting that he might just vaporize your units. And it seems like this is very flippy. If it wasn't maybe for priority target didn't supplies, what do you think about that?
Yeah, like if there was more incentive to actually go over and try to knock your opponent off objectives, I think it could be more flippy. But like what I was saying earlier, it's like I have to deny 10 primary, and he has his entire army sitting behind this midfield ruin that I can't interact with because my firing base can't get there fast enough. And if my firing base just wanders out into the open, then he like drops in Dev Sense, drops in Plasceptors, walks out Eradicators, and then kills my Doomstalkers, and now I have no firing base. So we're both kind of sitting there with tons of firepower behind these walls, staring at each other, waiting to see who blinks first, but there's no incentive to blink until he uses his assets. So like that turn 3 when he used his assets and I, removed his Plasceptors and his Dev Sense, it was like, okay, well, now's the time to push. But unfortunately, the wraiths don't like do any damage to AOC Gravis guys, so I wasn't able to flip the objectives. So yeah. And like the King's gonna take forever to get there. So yeah.
So it might be a little more flippy on something like taking hold, maybe not taking hold, but just something
like
where
something like
the primary
supply
matters
drop,
a little bit more,
right? Like if we're playing something like supply drop, I have to go out there and fight him, and now it's way scarier. Yeah. What's really good about the Plasceptors is they can just drop in within 12, and now you can't loan up your Doomstalkers, and they mess up the Doomstalkers because they're 8/3/3. Yeah. So they're wounding on 4s rerolling, and it only takes 4 to go through to one shot a Doomstalker. Yeah. But then there's also the like Overwatch, right? Like the Doomstalker Overwatch hitting on 5s rerolling sometimes picks up like half the Plasceptor squad.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. This is like
so like our turn 3, he dropped
King,
in.
Right? The King, you don't get AOC doesn't work. The -1 to hit from Vanguard doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like
we both told each other we're really scared. And then at one point, what was it? Our coach comes over. He's like, "Hey, we need you to try to get a few more points out of this than a 10." And I was like, "That's fine," because I'm like, I just killed the Plasceptors. I'm gonna go try to deny primary. And then Nick came over and he's like, "Yo, Castro, we need you to just get that 10, buddy. Hold steady." And so Castro's sitting there like holding the line, and I'm trying to tear down his wall, and I don't. So yeah, it was fun. I didn't get any of my Technos epic challenged, so that was hype.
Yay!
Nice. Sweet.
He's just sitting there punching rates forever. Yeah, as you can see too, my secondaries early game were like much more passive. And then, well, turn 3, I drew like 2 kill ones, and I'm like, well, I'm not getting those. Can't score bring it down against that army at all because there's no monsters or vehicles in it.
Nope. Well, that'll change on the new mission pack. Aren't you excited?
I am excited, dude. Yeah.
Heal me.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, well, now that my rates are in your backfield, I really hope you don't draw overwhelming prisoners. He draws overwhelming capture, and then he recycles capture into prisoners, and I'm like, no, the 11, no, it's back to a 10.
I love the primary scores where y'all both got 10, 10, 10,
So
20.
dumb. He didn't even cross over to my side of the board except for the Pliceptors that one time. Like, that was it. I was the only one out here trying to deny primary, and it didn't work.
Priority target. Woo.
Yeah.
That is something that I'm actually glad to see taking off.
Oh, are they just getting rid of prios?
Prios does not exist. The only missions that are kept verbatim are take and hold and supply drop. And then the rest are an amalgamation of stuff. Prios is just gone.
Well, people get this mission.
Turbo Skulls, still a mission. It has a new name.
I would think you would score 25 going second, but it's like, no, that 10 primary is still into their command phase, buddy.
Yep.
So glad to see that like one kind of confusing thing's gone.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
sweet.
Yeah. Good game, Kaiser.
Moving on, we got Lucas playing into Siegs. I know a thing or two about Tau. I can talk about this Montca list.
Dude.
Apparently. Siegs has got 3 Cadre Fireblades. They're going to join to 3 squads of 10 Breachers in cycling through only 2 Devilfish, which is plenty. He's got 3 Ion Heads to lay down some firepower, 10 Pathfinders to infiltrate and do bullshit, 3 Piranhas, because they're one of the best data sheets in the book, 3 Riptides for the same reason, 3 Stealth Suits, 3 squads of 3 Stealth Suits for the same reason. This is like a really straightforward, no frills kind of list that is just going to lay down offensive amounts of firepower while doing a good amount of move blocking and still having enough scoring to go around. I like it a lot. It nails the fundamentals, and it's not unnecessarily complicated. How'd this game go, Lucas?
This was a really fun game. Just as an aside, I love that Tau lists look like this now. My complaint always with Tau was that it was just the crisis unit gets 5 CP a turn and does whatever it wants to, and that was boring. I much prefer these lists where like no one unit is all that crippling, but like it's kind of a concert of a whole bunch of different pieces that both you and your opponent can kind of interact with and try to play around. It's just so much more fun. So I love this list by Siegler, and it was a really fun game. This was the game I was on stream on the Tactical Tortoise YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the VOD of this, you can go do that. It's the first game on day 1. And it was a really close game, really fun. I think we were both hoping to go second. With Siegler not having the scout enhancement, he's not really going to be able to alpha strike me turn 1. And because he chose the table here, being the second defender that Art of War put forward, it was very, I knew I was going to be on a lighter table, or I guess they all have the same amount of terrain, but like, a table where the objectives are more out in the open. So I'm going to have to not try to fight him for as many turns as possible, and then hopefully just like wait out the Montca. And I think I did that pretty well. So Siegs ends up going first, which is good for me. And then we basically take 2 turns of him slowly throttling forward, trying to screen me out while scoring as many points as possible. And then I just kind of like waited until bottom of 2 to expose all 110 boys and walked them out into the open. Siegler took his turn 3 final Montca shooting phase, killed half of them. And then for the rest of the game, those 50 boys like lived in combat with his army. And I, ground out a whole bunch of points while he got far fewer points, just some secondaries basically. So we'll see this when we go to the next slide of basically he scored a crap load of points in the early game. And then I scored a crap load of points in the late game. And by the way, this picture on the right is a fun little picture of us doing our pairings here, which I thought was pretty fun. Yeah, so overall a really fun game. I think Green Tide has a very solid Montca matchup. If I'm able to get close to a tie on like the ideal Tau board while they're getting a bunch of early primary, it's it can't be that bad of a mission. And Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of tools that orcs have to make Tau really scared. In particular, because breachers have such short range, there's like this constant dance of getting them in a relevant spot, but also not close enough to be randomly like jumped by 5 storm boys and basically killed, or the boys pile in and tag them, because Tau is back to being one of those armies where, other than Riptides, which you can fall back and shoot, it's kind of like Guard, where they absolutely hate being tagged because they have a bunch of blast weapons and they have no fallback and shoot basically, other than Riptides. So if you can like tag breachers or tag hammerheads, then all of a sudden their damage completely falls off a cliff. So it's definitely volatile in that sense, and especially because breachers are such short range, there's this like constant positioning dance, which I found really fun. This was a game where the Mega Knobs were really great. They helped me score the Bring It Down that I actually did. As we can see, my secondary scores were pretty weak, and I had already kind of had this inclination a couple weeks ago that the Mega Knob version of the list is really bad at scoring, because it has 1 truck, 1 unit of Storm Boys, and 1 unit aggression for scoring. And because I sacrificed my Storm Boys on turn 1 to get 3 points on Homer, I basically had no ability to screen or score future homers. That wasn't a big important unit, like a unit of boys not charging. So I just scored poorly on homers, unfortunately. And with taking 2 turns off from doing damage and then wogging on 3, and that wog needed to be used to kill all the breachers, so I didn't instantly get tabled, my ability to kill his vehicles was also very, very low. So I got a Devilfish pretty low. I could have picked up 3 more points there. Didn't pan out, but I did get up 7 on Bring It Down, which is obviously not fantastic with how many vehicles Siegs was bringing to bear. So yeah, overall a really interesting game with a lot of moving parts, and it was fun to, I think I mentioned this on the show, but I'm very used to this point, orcs being you gain a bunch of momentum on turn 2 and 3, and by 4 and 5 you're basically out of gas and you're just trying to scramble to score points. It's really fun with Green Tide to play an army that gets better the later the game goes, especially because you're trying to overwhelm your opponent on turn 3 with like 5 charges of 20 boys. It's fun when they stick around for a turn or 2, and then like you can do late game teleports or revives to continue to tough it out and be durable and have OC on objectives. I think that's really, really fun. And that was kind of what happened this game, right? Like turn 1 and 2, I did nothing. Turn 3, I got shot a whole bunch and lost like 800 points, 900 points. And then on turn 4 and 5, I scored, like 50 points. So it was really cool. Fun game. And if you want to hear us talk a little bit about it and hear our thought process as we're going through the game, just be sure to check out the VOD.
Yeah, good stuff there. Do you think if you ran this back, you would take those same fixed secondaries, or do you think tactical has more play here?
I think so. There were many times I unfortunately left points on the table by just not pre-planning for what was going to be doing homers. So for the best example of this was on turn 2, I moved my battle wagon out and had a very easy way to consolidate within 6 of the center. But I didn't foresee that my wagon was going to end up in combat next turn. So if I just consolidated in a spot where I could do homers the following turn, that would have been a homer on turn 3. And then if I just manage my fight phase a little bit better on turn 3, I get 3 more points on Bring It Down by killing a Devilfish. And all of a sudden, getting a 23 instead of a 17, obviously not great when there's 40 points to go around between secondaries, but I think that's totally fine. And if we end up playing a more aggressive game, like if we're not playing priority target, for example, and we're just playing a more drag out, bang up fight type of thing, if we're playing taking hold, Siegs is going to have to, or the Tau player is going to have to use more of his vehicles, and then that's more opportunity to Bring It Down. So, yeah, I think Bring It Down homers is the way to go.
Alrighty. Well, net result there, we end up losing this round to Art of War by a single point at the end of the day. It ends up being an 86-74, if I'm not mistaken, which is a real heartbreaker, as I missed points because I clocked out, and Lennon missed points because he and Sasha got to play for 7 hours. But overall, a really well-fought round overall. The other big success showing on their part, I think, was really Jack coming out and 15-5ing the Blood Angels. That was a matchup that we had real faith in Zach to take down, and Jack just totally caught him off guard with some amount of dice and some amount of tactics. So props to Jack for that. think that was real big for them. Sweet. So round 2, this is still on day 1. We're playing into Midwest Alliance. These guys are cool. I'm glad they got invited. They were a bunch of fun dudes. But I think as far as the 4 teams involved, they were something of the underdogs going in. They have a little bit less, a couple fewer recognizable names. Although if you're in the Midwest, I'm sure these guys are local fucking menaces because they're all pretty darn good at Warhammer. So we're playing to them again on Search and Destroy because Anthony makes decisions on Chilling Reign and Take and Hold. So a much more standard quarters match. And yeah, let's get right into it. I am paired into Nick on T-Sons. This ended up being the Forgotten. So we just sort of fell into each other. Nick, give us a quick rundown on this T-Sons list here, as you know you're in it, and give us some thoughts as well.
Yeah, so this list, we got an Exalted Sorcerer on disc. We got 3 Infernal Masters, 1 with Vortex. We got 2 Thousand Sun Sorcerers, 1 with Crystal, 1 with Lord of Forbidden Lore. We got Airmen on disc, Magnus, 5x5 rubrics, 3 squads of 10 cultists, and a Rhino. This is like the pretty standard teams list that Liam VSL was playing back in like March and February. I think the only change is that you drop like a squad of Zangors for cultists is what this list has changed. I don't know where that lets you pick. Oh, that lets you pick up the points for the enhancement increases. That's it. Yep. Pretty standard fare. Seems like it'll be interesting in the GSC. They could definitely whoosh you with flamers, but also they are just dudes in power armor. So they are allergic to bombas and seismic cannons.
Yep, that is the trade-off. Nick over here has 1 Rhino, which is my first, last, and only target that needs to die, and everything else after that we'll kind of get around to eventually. T-Sun's matchup with GSC is always interesting because, like Nick said, their Overwatch is insane. That Infernal Master, even the Infernal Masters without Vortex, just do a ton of damage and make bombing things rather complicated. It has to be a lot about cutting really intense angles, accepting Overwatch where it has to happen, and then just making sure we can get as much utility out of the Neophytes as possible. It's really tricky to set up Neophytes, though, out of range of getting attacked when Magnus can just go 48 and shoot them. So, like, we got to be clever in places. If I can make that Lord of Forbidden Lore go away and Magnus drops down to only moving 32, and let's be real, you're never taking +2 move against GSC because then you die of 2 damage attacks. So really it's 28. So if I can stay outside of 30 inches of Magnus, ideally, that seems pretty good. If the Lord of Forbidden Lore goes away. So we'll see what we can do. We happen to luck into the best table imaginable for GSC into T-Sons on this matchup. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Nick Nanavati, for designing this table. This table is weird. I think this is table 7 in the Art of War GW whatever layouts, because you can't hold your home field from most angles. The only ruin that's on your home field is positioned kind of up and out. So if you can just sneak down to that bottom right, you just get to shoot freely up into there. And anywhere else you can be shot at from the outside, which is kind of sketchy. We spent a while hemming and hawing about deployment here because he was like, all right, I got to put my Rhino somewhere. It's very important. And I'm like, I agree. And he's like, all right, cool. Where can I hide it? And I'm like, nowhere. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, so my Ridge Runners move 21 and shoot. He's like, interesting. So we do some measurements and check some stuff. And the only place this Rhino can hide is in his backfield ruin, like behind the L of the plates. It will be out of the game, and it means that he can't put a lot of other stuff back there. And he's like, damn, well, my coach is going to call me a bitch if I do that. So we're just going to put it on the line instead in the top up there, kind of top middle from this perspective. And I said, cool. And I killed it. It's great. Went first again here, killed that Rhino, most of a squad of rubrics, and tagged another squad of rubrics turn 1. Fantastic turn 1. He tried to deal with, and also my 5 pure strain also killed 20 cultists. My 5 pure strains ran and killed 10 cultists in the middle. My Ridge Runners with their stubbers, in addition to some Reductus indirect fire, killed the other 10 cultists. So fantastic turn 1. He ends up indirecting Magnus to kill the 5 Pure Strains in the center objective, which is a very expensive way to kill 5 Pure Strains, but like fair enough, I guess. And I still get a 15 because I've got a Reductus in the bottom right, and he didn't want to come over there. Yeah, so I drop in, I kill 5 rubrics with the one of the Infernal Masters and 5 rubrics with the Lord of Forbidden Lore, and like that's the game. You can't lose 5 units for essentially nothing as a T-Suns player, especially while he can't hold his home field. I also killed, he put 3 units on his, and the 10 cultists. He put 10 cultists, 10 cultists and 2 rubric squads, one of which has Lore of Forbidden Lore with 18-inch Lone Up, one of which has an Infernal Master on his home field, and I just killed all 3 of those. All right, cool. So now your army is like 2 or 3 units, 2 units of rubrics, maybe 3 units of rubrics, Magnus, and 2 solo characters, and you're getting a 0 on primary. He drew Area Denial Storm Hostile and ran Magnus into the middle to score both of those while denying primary from the Taroks that you can see on there right now. And then I tabled him. GSC moments. This was like gross.
T-Suns always seem like such an insane army when they're the one dictating the pace of the game, and such a hopeless army when they're the one getting like initiated on.
Yeah, I have a list in my phone called "I am the one who applies the pressure" with 30 Pure Strains, 3 Reductuses, and 10 Infiltrating Aberrants. And like that was not the list I played this event, but that was the mentality that I took. You push on T-Suns, and they can definitely crumble. Especially when the terrain is to your advantage in this way, and you have things that move 21 inches and shoot 36. Like, that's just a problem for them. We blew them the fuck up. Final score 100-20. Call that a 20-0. Great game, Nick. He was a great opponent. We had a good time. Colby says, the day you got tabled was the most important day of your life. For Tyler, it was merely a Tuesday. Yeah, that's accurate. Nick was saying that he had not taken a loss this hard, I think just period. It just hadn't happened to him yet. So it was fun to be a bit of an educational moment. See what it feels like to be on the other side of someone who's dictating the tempo of a game. Fucking T-Suns.
Nicely done.
Supposedly the slate is going to remove this.
You want to re-rack that when your new codex comes out too?
Sure. Once also we get the T-Suns updates in the slate, that'll be a fair and fun game.
No. We'll do it. We'll do it tomorrow or Monday.
I don't have a codex yet. Codex comes out next week, and points hopefully shortly thereafter. Please God, points save me. Anyway, fun game. A bit silly though. We were done pretty quick. We got to spend a lot of time chatting with other people about what Warhammer was and getting other people excited about it, which was cool.
Nice.
Anywho'sville. Meanwhile, our boy Nicholas over here is paired into the mirror match. Woo! This was great. I honestly like the games are kind of whatever. They're fun. They're good games. But definitely go back to the Tactical Tortoise stream and rewatch the pairings process. It was so much fun. People are freaking out. Everyone's yelling. There's really interesting decisions being made. There's a lot of trash talk. It's just a great time. And everyone on both teams got very excited that we paired the Can Court mirror, so no one else has to play into Can Court. So this Can Court list, a bit more standard than Nick's. No King, 3 Plasmancer bricks of Immortals, 3x5, 3 Technomancers with the 3 squads of Wraiths. He's got Xeris. He's got 2 Solo Locusts and 3 Doomstalkers. Bog standard as it gets. Tell us about this game, Nick. How was the mirror match?
Yeah, so I had the mirror as a flip-y matchup because it felt to me like we just vibe on primary, and then if at any point there's like a lot of spikes in one person's favor, whether it be like a lot of wounds and like not a lot of feel no pains, right? Then like their rates win the objective and they start getting primary there, right? So I thought that what I would do was probably, since it's taken hold, right? I only need to focus on 3 objectives. I'll focus on my home field, and then I'll focus on 2 objectives. So I'll set up Wraiths to attack 2 of them, and then have a 3rd Wraith squad and the King ready to go support whichever like areas of the board need the support. And then I have the Doomstalkers ready to like sit and just like fire into the midfield or fire into other objectives to try to like dissuade him putting Immortals on objectives at least. And yeah, I secondary wise it was interesting. I debated taking fix. I was like, do I take like cleanse homers and just get to the objectives first and vibe? And I was like, maybe. Or do I just take tactical? And like, because I have better trash for it, right? Like I've got like the death marks, I've got the flayed ones, I've got like the 3 squads of scarabs. And like for the most part, I can and score them more. And like if he's using like immortals to screen his backfield and stuff, then they're not on the primary. And then like especially on take and hold, like if I'm denying primary a lot, like and he's only getting 5 a turn, then like I'm winning a lot there. I don't know. I just went for tactical. There were a lot of people in the hall at this time, so there were a lot of people coming over and like talking. And I was like, I'm just gonna draw cards. Like, let's just have fun. Like, we both like showed up and we're both like, this is really gonna be goofy, dude. And I was like, let's go. Like, I'm like, let's go tactical. And I'm like, you too. And he's like, actually, Storm homers. And I was like, whoa, okay. I didn't even consider Storm. And I was like, what an interesting idea. He ends up winning the defender roll off. He ends up infiltrating his wraiths defensively onto like a far objective. I end up infiltrating my wraiths like right behind the midfield ruin. We're playing on table 8 NTL for reference, so that they can go support either objective or like go touch either objective turn 1. And then like I've got stuff set up like infiltrating flayed ones for like signals and all that. I end up going first, and I was like, that's interesting. So I can just go out and threaten a 15 immediately, and if you knock me off the 15, you're not getting storm for that because you can't storm turn 1. But also you're maybe going to get a 15 at the end of the game unless I like really pressure you right now. So I basically launch a squad of wraiths over to like his bottom infiltrating wraiths, but they're like behind the wall, and I'm like, all right, if you come out to try to charge me, I can like reactive move, or next turn I'll walk over to you and I'll get more guys on the objective than you. Or you can reactive move onto it and we tie it, but then I charge you. Or you reactive move off it and then you don't get primary. Win-win for me. I shoot some Doomstalkers downtown. King, supporting them, that sort of thing. We end up getting like some pretty good secondary draws early. He ends up not contesting my 15. Turn 2, I just seed the middle. I just back off the middle because I charge his bottom right objective. I put 6 wraiths on the top left objective, and then I go, cool, you can't storm the middle now because I didn't own it at the start of your turn. I've got my wraiths vibing here, and I'm winning this war of attrition down here because a spike happened where I got good hits and you failed like more field pens than you should have. So nice, I'm winning the war of attrition. And also I got to shoot like some Doomstalkers downtown. He decided like I'm not going to lone op it because like it doesn't seem that worth it, and I killed like 2 wraiths. One came back, but it was like, that's enough when it's wraith v wraith and I get to charge you and like you're down 3 wraiths, and so I'm gonna eventually win that long war. He opts to send 12 wraiths over to the top objective, and I reactive move the first charge. He gets the 5-inch charge off the second unit and the 9-inch charge off the first unit that I reactive moved. So now he's got 12 wraiths living in combat with my 6 wraiths. And I decide to respond by sending 12 wraiths of my own in there. So he gets storm from that. But here's what I do is I got a plan. The Silent King has a 3rd aura that is very rarely used, but it's reroll charges +1 strength. So I send that in on the turn. I send my 12 wraiths in, and I'm like, haha, I will be wounding your wraiths on 3s. If you want to send us to the next slide real quick. Here's a picture of this fabulous mental battle we have going on as 24 wraiths are beating the shit out of each other on the top left objective, and the king is providing his aura as he's moving to the midfield. I've also at this point won the bottom right objective, so I'm basically like cementing a 10 every turn. And I think because of that king walking over, giving them the +1 strength, that gives me just that little bit of edge I need to start winning the war of attrition there. He does get, I think, primary that round. But at that point, then it's like I start killing his wraiths faster than he's killing my wraiths, and he doesn't get storm. I get the primary up there. The king goes and vibes in the middle and beats up some immortals, and then he starts running his Doomstalkers out to go onto the objectives because he's like, they're LC4, bitch. And I'm like, oh my god, this is really funny. I'm gonna do the same thing. And yeah, eventually my wraiths that won the bottom right objective go take his home field. I draw capture because I hadn't drawn capture at that point yet, so I set up for it, draw it, get capture. We go to round 5. He like fails every bottle shock he could, and he can't get any more primary. And he's like, "Well, damn, you did it. You are the Canoptech court." And that was the game. It was a fun game. Like we said, there was a lot more people in the hall at this time because it was, I think, like we started this game around 1:30. So like a lot more crowds were there. So it was really fun just talking to people about Warhammer coming by. A lot of people were asking about Necrons. A lot of people were like, "Well, what armies do you have?" And we're like, "Actually, these are the same armies." So that was really funny to explain to people. And we had this really cool conversation at the end because like my opponent, Alex, he was all like, "What do you think like they should have been more stable?" Because yeah, if we go to the score sheet, I end up winning this game 18-2. He's like, "This should have been more stable. What do you think would happen?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know. Like, this was kind of my thought process." So we're talking, and then some guy comes over and starts asking, and he's like, "Actually, this is really interesting. I want to hear what you guys are saying." So we had this like guy just like loving just hearing how we were breaking down the game. So yeah, it was a super fun game. Probably the most interesting game of the weekend. Like on paper, it sounds really boring, but like playing like basically a mirror and trying to figure out like, okay, what in our lists like give us the advantages over each other and trying to leverage that advantage was super fun. And it felt rewarding. I feel like I, identified that correctly. So
Nice, dude. That's awesome to hear. It also seems like, especially mirror matches kind of accentuate this a little bit, but also just like Canoptech Court, the way, at least I understand. I love this picture of you guys.
yeah, twins.
The robot overlords crossing. How might I advance the interests of my dynasty?
I think this was us
Actual mirror match.
I think this was.
Yeah, it totally is.
What do we do, dude?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that these mirrors, but especially Canoptech Court, kind of force you to think about fundamentals of like how do I like win the grind fight, and what is like battles of attrition look like? How quickly am I killing my opponent relative to me? Like also spacing, taking up space both on the board and on objectives. It kind of boils the game down to fundamentals, which I personally enjoy quite a bit. So interesting hearing about this game. Do you feel like he should have just taken tactical then? Oh my god, your tactical scores were insane, brother. What the hell?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Part of the cards, baby.
That's hype. Do you think you should have taken tactical as well?
Maybe. I think that Cleanse Homers is probably the more stable here. Like, you don't really need the glut of CP in this matchup either, because like, what are you spending CP on? Like Lone Op and I don't know, save reroll, like some reactive moves here and there.
You're not epic challenging techno versus techno.
No, I would with the king if I ever had the chance, but he was smart and put his technos behind the walls. So I was like, I'm not sending the king over there to get caught in the ongoing, never-ending wraith combat. Yeah, I mean he's got Xeris, so like he could take assassinate and just sprint at my wraiths because like I can't kill Xeris. Like so,
this is
that
true.
would have not been horrible. I think if you wanted to play it more aggressively and try to go for like the punch, maybe like Homer's assassinate, but you definitely need like something like some sort of character that can walk in and actually do that, like a Xeris. The king's not that great at it because he's slow and he's big. I'm gonna play like a Scorpec Lord for some reason. He could do it pretty well. So yeah, I think tactical is fine though, especially like my trash was really well set up for tactical. I felt like because I have like deep striking trash, I have infiltrating trash, I have like fast trash. So yeah, and also like he's
whereas
got
the can court list, now that
variety.
they've gone up a little bit of points, if you're taking the Immortals and the Wraiths and the Doomstalkers, you're kind of like 0 fodder units, right?
That's the other thing. He's got a big variety of units of like he's got good bring it down targets for me, right? He's got good assassinate and prisoners targets with these small plasmincer immortal squads. And like that turn where I got assassinate prisoners was a turn he exposed 1 immortal squad. And I'm like, I'll kill 1 squad, get 9 points. Thank you very much. His tactical enemy is a little worse, right? Because like, where am I giving up assassinate, right? My no prisoners, yes, I have like scarabs you could pick up. That's true. So yeah. I think that was just sort of a thing there. Yeah. Cool. I think basically that's what it'd be. If you want like a more potential to score more points, play tactical. If you want more stable, play cleanse homers. And if you want to try to, like, I don't know, delete your opponent and play a homers assassinate. But you got to have the right character for that. At least in like the specific mirror. So yeah, I think he identified a good mistake that turn where he charged both the Wraith squads in. He like didn't need to do that because his Wraiths theoretically should swing first and like win that war, and he should flip the point, right? But I think he was really worried about me getting another 5 and not getting Storm. But it was like now his 12 Wraiths are locked in combat, and then I get the next charge in, and now like when he maybe could have had another supporting unit to like either support the middle or like, you know, because abandoning that top field after I've committed 12 Wraiths to it, he could have then come down to the middle and like stormed that and like started getting primary there. But yeah, this matchup is definitely like once you commit Wraith to Wraith, like you guys just sit there and you're like, who will win and how long will it take?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's move on down then to our final matchup from here. Lucas is playing into Grey Knights, and thank you for falling on this grenade. I didn't want anything to do with this stupid list. This list is real easy to read off. He's got 2 Tech Marines, 5 Dread Knights, and 3 Redeemers, and 5 Voidsmen. Of course, 3 regular Dread Knights, 2 Grandmasters. Oh man, that is certainly one of the lists of all time. What the hell happened?
Edition moment, dude.
Looking at the
Who needs
art
a Force Orb chart, it's bad.
I go to look at like, you know, when I was uploading all this art, I'm like going into the you know, going onto the interwebs and just looking for Grey Knight art. I'm like, wow, these guys are so cool. Like, imagine if Grey Knights were actually just badass dudes in power armor and Terminator armor. Like the list Jack was playing at WTC. That was such a cool list and was playing in such a unique way. And instead now we have 8 hull spam like being the thing for Grey Knights. It's just kind of sad. So I had this in the Matrix as a pretty bad matchup. You would think that just a ton of strength 6 flamers, especially all being vehicles, a lot of them can fall back and shoot, that kind of thing. I guess it's just the 3 NDKs, but that is 3 of the 8. You'd think it'd be pretty bad. Which the thing is, the other 5 don't fall back and do stuff. So you can run into all sorts of awkward scenarios where you either shut off enemy unit shooting because it would only be that one enemy unit shooting into combat, or those things can fall back, not shoot, and so they can shoot. The other units can shoot into an optimal target. So like, if you're intelligent with where you tag, you can really stress the activations. And because this army only has 8 activations, let's say the Orc go turn goes in and kills like 1, maybe 2 of them. All of a sudden, maybe 1 or 2 more get shut down because of the activation locking, and you need to fall back or shooting not optimal targets. It just gets kind of awkward, in all honesty. And 2-up armor, I won't lie to you, is very challenging. AOC only happens in one place, but still, just like 2-up and 3-up armors, you can bounce a lot of what orcs are bringing to bear. But you know, over time, you slowly whittle down the vehicles. They're not getting any primary while you're doing that. And you just shut off enough of the flamers for enough time that hopefully your guys stick around until like turn 4, and then you already won a vast majority of the primary points. So pretty interesting game. We both took tactical here. I know he really likes CP, the Grey Knights, and for myself, I just didn't want to have to commit to bring it down. In case, you know, the vehicle killing goes poorly, I don't want to randomly be screwed out of a whole bunch of points. So we're both going tactical, scored pretty well, but the moral of the story here is this primary scores that you're seeing. He got his home field twice and then natural expansion twice. So he was capped at 20 primary. Meanwhile, all of my green guerrillas were on all of the objectives for turns 2, 3, and 4. So I got a 50 easy peasy, and that's most of the 37 point or 27 point differential you see here. So I still think that, you know, I kind of am running into a lot of these scenarios where I think a green tide matchup is like slightly unfavored unless anything goes poorly for the opponent, and then all of a sudden like it starts collapsing just because like the chain reaction of orcs being in combat, not being shot. Next turn they get another charge. There's just like all sorts of cascading effects that cause, you know, 5, 10, 15 point swings as you're going down the line there. So Yeah, a really good, really interesting game. Ben was a fantastic opponent. He took some pretty unfortunate dice, like really in stride, which I appreciate. And he was a fun person to play against, and we were both laughing. He did table like my entire army, basically the end of turn 4. I had like 10 boys and like my mega knobs in a corner of the board left on turn 5. So he basically killed all my dudes. But in classic Horde fashion, you denied all the points while that was happening. So really fun game. And as you can see here on stream, my name, my tag, if you will, is Redeem These Nuts. And that's because I killed 3 Redeemers in this game.
Let's go.
Meganob's really making me want to include them on the list. And this is why I think they're a pretty good choice in singles, is ability to kill hard targets like Land Raider Redeemers. They killed 2.5 by themselves, which is pretty good.
Nice. Having now played this game, do you feel like you would update your matrix on it to a purple, or do you think this is still in the orange? I'm probably going to lose. I just got lucky in this one.
I think it's pretty tie-ish. I think if the Grey Knights play perfectly and things go pretty decently for them, it's a pretty tie-ish game where they cut through the Orcs by turn 4 and maybe score some more points on the way. But again, every time something goes wrong, like a charge lands that's a little bit more iffy, or I don't know, maybe your non-AOC guys that are in combat roll a few too few saves, and all of a sudden you have 1 less flamer and side cannon that you thought you were going to, and that's 6 fewer boys dead every single turn. Then it starts getting worse from there. So I think it's honestly not a bad matchup for Green Tide.
Good to know. All right, let's keep it grooving into round 3. This is day 2, going into Pro Tabletop. Pro Tabletop, definitely a lot of very scary, respectable players on this team, including Jaime, who was famously a starter for USA last year. He took this year off to be a person with a business to run, and I believe he got, I don't know if he got married yet, but he got engaged. Anyway, so very, very, very excited to see him again and the rest of these boys. It's a cool crowd. And we're playing them on Crucible Purge the Foe, which is a mission that is going to continue to exist for some reason, but one that certainly skews a lot of what seems like pretty cut and dry matchups in some unexpected ways. So Lucas, you just played into Grey Knights. How about you walk through this Grey Knights list that I am playing into this time around?
Look at this art, dude. God, Grey Knights are so sick. So we got 1 Tech Marine in this list, 3 Nemesis Grandmaster Dread Knights, one of which has the sigil. We got Drago, 10 Terminators with Incinerators, 5 Strike Marines, 3 more Nemesis Dread Knights, and 5 Voidsmen. So this is a 6 Dread Knight, 0 Raider, 10 Terminator list. Very interesting. And sticky objectives, which is a very cool tool to have. I like that a lot. How did this go on Purge the Foe?
Yeah, Purge was an element of this that I had not fully considered properly. In general, I rate the Grey Knights matchup pretty highly for GSC because they have a very low number of activations, and a lot of their bullshit is tied to 1 unit at a time. And any of my units can basically kill any of their units pretty comfortably if it gets to activate at full strength. And I have a lot of trash, and he has no trash, essentially. So overall, I like it a lot. Purge the Foe is going to make things more complicated because I have a lot more trash than he does. But also, I get to go second, which is sick. This game was a little funny. So I get to go second, which is awesome. And Joe plays super well. He very intelligently hides from my Ridge Runners in ways that I can't really get to him to do a lot of damage. The only guy that I can actually draw beads on, he's going to be able to miss away, most likely. And I'm totally fine with this exchange. Like, get the guy out of my face. He goes for that. We're feeling all right. But I do top deck some interesting cards. I top deck Engage Capture, which is, an option. And he's flung 2 of his regular Dread Knights to his natural expansion in the bottom right. And I'm looking around, I'm like, interesting. And I do some measurements. He has not screened me off of his home field because this is one of the ones where the wall kind of chops it in half. He's only got 2 OC on his home field, maybe 3 OC. I'm like, huh, interesting. And this is a moment in teams where, you have to make some decisions. If this is singles, I'm going to play this game to a close win. I'll probably throw down a cheap squad, pick up the capture, pick up some points, blow up a couple things, or say forget the capture entirely, do a little bit of damage, just play a slower, grindier game. But it is a team's environment, and how everyone else's games are going and the pairings overall are going to impact how you choose to play your game. So I walk over to my captain, to Mr. Jonathan Naden, and say, hey, Sean, I do have an opportunity to go full balls to the wall bottom one, or bottom one, because he went first. Should I? And Sean said, unabashedly, absolutely. You throw every single thing you have at it. Let's go full send. And I said, okay, we're doing it. So the plan here is to 3-inch a single bomb squad with a Primus all the way down so that it captures enemy outpost and draws down to get to shoot at both of the Dread Knights that are on the objectives. Then the Neophytes drop in with pointing at both of them as well. At least one is probably going to overwatch and kill a couple of guys. Math is he kills 5, which is fine. So I'll even be able to coherency pop the middle to string back to get engage and capture, while the Neophytes get the 4th quadrant of engage. The bombs will split and do massive damage to both Dread Knights. Might kill either of them, might kill neither of them, and then the Neophytes will finish both of them. So if this all goes according to plan, he'll lose 2 of his 3 non-Grandmaster Dread Knights, which are by far the scariest ones. I'll score capture, or I'll score kill. I'll score kill more because he got no kills turn 1. He will not score hold next turn. Yeah, this is an insane play that if it works correctly, just like ends the game on the spot, and puts me in a phenomenal place to be pushing to like a 15, 16, 17 here instead of the 11 or 12 or 13 that I was initially going for. But it does open me up to some notable risks, mainly when he overwatches this squad of bombs with his Nemesis Dread Knight. Things could get a little hairy, and instead of 7 shots, he could roll 12, and he could roll lots of wounds, and I could fail lots of saves, and then have only 3 acolytes left. And then he could fire his side cannon also on Overwatch and get 3 hits out of 8 shots on 6s and roll 3 2-ups to wound to kill those 3 dudes. And then I would have no acolytes.
Is that what happened, Tyler?
That's exactly what happened. Uh-oh. So as a result of this, we then backpedal off the Neophytes, don't put them out in the open to also die, because we're not killing 2 Dread Knights with just a brick of Neophytes. Yeah, so instead of that happening, I don't kill anything this turn. So he gets kill more when he would have gotten neither of those. I don't get capture. He gets a hold, and I get a 3 instead of a 5 on engage. Yeah, so that's 16 points of swing on primary, 8 points of swing on secondary, 10 points of swing on secondary. So that's a 26-point swing because this Overwatch went hot. And also, like, material-wise, he's now up 2 Dread Knights. Uh-oh. And then I fail my 3-up to get the unit back. Woo!
Yikers, dude.
So that is what we call a push. And that is what happens when you push and it doesn't go well. Very cool. The rest of the game was fun. We picked at each other and poked and prodded and whatever. And it ends up coming down 90 to 59. Let me get that stat check logo out of the way there so you can actually see the thing. 90 to 59. Yeah, I still get 24 points of primary, which is not horrific. I was really close to getting a bunch more. I don't have it clicked on the card here, but I burned in Storm for a for overwhelming after knowing that I was likely to fail my battle shock check for investigate, which I did. So I didn't get my investigate, which would have made it a 14-6 instead of a 15-5. And then I had to kill his 5 henchmen on his home field with 3 seismics and I couldn't do that either. That would have been, what would that have been? Like 8 points to make it a 13-7, 14-6. Anyway, moral of the story is doesn't end up working out. I end up losing. This is a 15-5 narrowly. Yeah, that's what happens when you push and it doesn't work. Definitely would not have done that in a singles environment, but man, if this had worked, that would have been one of the coolest things that I'd ever done. I thought either way, it's a good sign off for an army that I have loved dearly. Good night, sweet princes. All right, moving on into our other game here. We got Nick playing into Walter. What's Walter's last name? Something Dorf? I don't remember the first half of his name.
Wagendorf or something?
Something like that. He's on Art of War this week, I think, with Nanavati chatting about this list. It's a really cool list, and it is a Necron list. He is playing Index Detachment, which is super cool. Gives you access to a lot of great stuff. I'm sure Nick will talk about some of that in specifics, but I'll run you through the list first. We got Xeris. We got 2 solo Locust Lords, which is a super sick choice. 2 Plasmancers, each of which go with a unit of 20 warriors. 2 Royal Wardens, one which has the Veil, to also go with those Plasmancers and those warriors. 3 Scorpack Lords, one of which has as the... Which enhancement is that?
It's the 4 Feel No Pain one.
The 4 Feel No Pain enhancement. Very nice on a Scorpack Lord. To go with the 3 squads of 3 Scorpacks. A Singular Technomancer to go with the 6-man Wraith unit. Those of aforementioned 40 warriors. A Reanimator. Unit of 3 Wraiths along with the 6 Wraiths. And the aforementioned 3 squads of 3 Scorpacks. This list is so cool. Tell us how this game went, Nick. And tell us about your prediction on the front end as well.
Yeah, so this list is pretty cool. I remember when we were tinkering with Necron lists, like after the changes, was looking at Awakened, especially because Scorpax got points drops. And I was like, what if you just play like a warrior wraith carpet with some punch, like when someone crashes into your wraiths? Because that's like one of the downsides I find with Cancourt is when someone crashes into you, your support is like, like Doomstalker can't shoot into combat, like my wraiths might not want to fall back, like what do I do, and that happens. So Walter opted to go more of the warrior route over the wraith route though, and we're playing Purge. So what I'm worried about on Purge is we both have some small units, yes, but like once those small units go away, like where are we getting our kills, right? And also what I'm worried about is like Holdmore, because like what about the world where he just charges his warriors into my wraiths because they have like fall back, shoot and charge from the Royal Warden, so like them being in combat's not that bad, right? What if they just charge my wraiths and now they're vibing on 3 out of 5 objectives and then he's getting Holdmore, right? Because my wraiths want to stand on objectives too. I want to turn my matrix on, that sort of thing. Or even if I don't stand on the objective, he's just gonna advance up to it, so he's gonna get Holdmore either way. I'm gonna have to come knock him off it at some point. And wraiths are not going to be that efficient at killing warriors. Yes, they could have access to ignore mods from the king, to ignore the AOC from Xeris. But if he's on it, right, if he's on 2 of the midfields, I'm not getting the matrix, so I'm just hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, wounding on 3s. He gets 5-up saves. He can reactively reanimate. He's got a reanimator. Okay. So I kind of put this down in our matrix as like we don't really have like a button for I don't know. But I was like, this feels like a losing side of a draw, maybe. I don't know how flippy it is, but yeah, it feels like he has a better like board control advantage. So we ended up getting the Necron Mirror again because everyone's like, that's funny, let's do it. And I was like, okay, let's go and see what happens. He goes first and is like, damn it, I went first on Purge the Foe. And I'm like, okay, yeah, bummer. He marches like a bunch of stuff onto objectives. He lands like a 7-inch charge from his wraiths into my wraiths, and I was like, okay, we're here now. I took Tactical. He took Assassinate, Assassinate Homers. I thought about doing the same because he does have a lot of characters. and in retrospect would have probably been better. But I was just kind of like, I'm gonna play tactical and see how it feels, because I haven't played this matchup. I got a lot of trash that can score it. He doesn't have a ton of trash to screen because like a lot of his stuff wants to come to me. So I figured, and also we're playing on what, corners, so I figured like, hey, maybe I can like drop in some death marks, right, and sneak a, you know, homers if I ever draw it, right, or like bring in some guys from strat reserves, that sort of thing. My turn 1, I think I drew like assassinate prisoners, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna walk the king up and epic challenge out this techno and kill him and get assassinate, and I'm gonna get like kill 1, kill more, assassinate, get like 4. No, I think I got 5 on prisoners too. And he was like, wow, that was a really bad turn. You just got, you know, 20 or you just got 18 points. I scored like 0 points. No, he ended up getting one. So I also, I'm a little bit aware of like, okay, what can he like counter shoot the king with, right? And counter punch the king with. He's got this warrior squad in his backfield that could like run out and shoot, and he can only get like 14 or 15 to shoot the king, but I've got cover. And then the other squad, he could Veil of Darkness the king, but I'm like, I'm going to charge these scarabs into these wraiths, and like they'll charge the backside sort of thing. And like wraiths without the techno, without rerolls, are probably not killing like 3 scarabs, especially if only like 3 of them are fighting or something like that. And then like the scarabs will push out that Veil of Darkness, you know, screen, right? Unfortunately, there the wraiths do kind of pop off and do kill the scarabs, and so he does get kill 1 and also denies my screen, and I'm like, well, it's a bummer. And at this point he's like freaking out because he's like, how do I win this game? You're like so ahead on points. You're going second, right? What do I do? And he sits there for like 10 minutes analyzing the board and like really worried about this, and then he just looks at me, basically he's like, I gotta full send it. I'm like, all right. And he's like, I gotta full send it. And he just like sprints everything out at me. And he lines up like a 7, like a 6, a 5, like a 4-inch charge, like all these charges. And I was like, interesting. He has like an 8 from Warriors to take a home field. He Veil of Darknesses, and he's like, I'm going to go for this 9-inch charge. And I'm like, okay. And at this point too, his shooting like pops off into the king. Like those 14 Warriors that I mentioned or whatever that could shoot him. I'm like, all right, this won't be that bad. And he's like, I'm going to pop reroll hits. I'm going to fish for 5 lethals. And I'm like, yep. And then he's like, cool. It's like 28 auto wounds into the king. And I'm like, okay, what's happening?
30 shots for the record.
It's again,
wasn't it like 27 shots, out of 30 shots? Oh my god.
It's something crazy like that. I'm like, okay, well, that's unfortunate, but I still have 3-ups. So he ends up getting the king, and then the other squad shoots a bit, and he tosses some mortals. So he ends up getting the king down to like 10 in shooting, which I was like, that was not what I expected, but okay. And then he starts making every charge. He's like, all right, 5-inch charge, boom, 6-inch charge, boom. You know, here's the Scorpex charging the king, but the wraiths are kind of move blocking them. So if all of them want to fight the king, they have to roll like an 8 or a 9. And if I roll like under that, some of them have to base the wraiths because they have to multi-charge. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, boom, roll the 9. All get to fight the king now. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, all right, this 8-inch charge into the wraiths to get to the midfield. Made it. Okay, this 9-inch charge into deep strike. Made it. And I'm like, oh no, dude, it's all falling apart, dude. He's doing it. He's running at me and he's doing it, dude. And he did it. He killed the king with the Scorpex because they are really efficient. He ends up finishing off that wraith squad that he hurt early that I was using to like kind of try to move block / activate my matrix. And at this point, it's like, okay, well, I've got 12 wraiths and 3 Doomstalkers and some trash. And he's got a lot of shit because my Doomstalkers killed like 1 Scorpec turn 1. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, he correctly identified that like my turn 1 shooting whiffed a little, but I was still going to like, he couldn't let that happen again, and that he needed to hit me really hard. And his list was good at that. We kind of underestimated how good the Scorpex would be at killing the wraiths, especially the turns that they charge in. They're hitting on 2s because they're led by a leader, right, in the Awakened Dynasties attachment. They're rerolling all hits on the charge. They have lethal hits from that leader, and they can also once per game pop dev wounds. It's not going to like kill 6 wraiths, but it's certainly going to kill like 2.5, maybe 3. And then those wraiths kill like a Scorpec back because you don't have your matrix active. Or they kill a Scorpec and a half. Not great. And now you're stuck in ongoing combat with Scorpex and a guy who is ready to epic challenge you, you know? So yeah.
What are the? Can you run
I
through exactly what the Scorpex do? Because I feel like this is a unit that's starting to gain some attention, but obviously has not really been seen so far in 10th edition. So, like, what does that unit do, and what happens when you attach them to the Lord?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a unit that is fairly durable and fairly fast and fairly punchy, and it's pretty cheap. They move 8. They're T6, 3 wounds, 3 up armor. They're infantry, right? So they can run through walls. They have access to easy access to cover, that sort of thing. They're all 4 attacks each at 7/2/2. They have a army or a detached data sheet rule, which is when they charge, they get full hit rerolls on the charge, which is fantastic. And they also have a token plasma sight that's once per game. They can use it to gain dev wounds. They get 1 token per 3. So if you're running a 6-man, you get 2 tokens. The Scorpec Lord, who is now the same cost as 3 Scorpecs, when before he used to be like 120 or something ridiculous. He's gone down a few times since Crons came out this edition. I think they're 75 now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or like there's either 75 or 85.
Scorp Lord, I think he's 80.
80. He's 80, isn't he?
80, and they're 80 as well. All right, so I'm like right in the middle there. Yeah, so the Scorpec Lord gives them lethal hits, which is a bit of a non-bow with dev wounds, but it's kind of one of those. It's like if you're throwing that much stuff at people, like whatever, right? Like you get some auto wounds on your strength 7, you get some dev wounds. Cool. It's not that much of a downside when the point of this unit is to run in and punch. The Scorpec Lord also has charge mortals, which is funny. On a 2-up, he does D3, and on a 6, he does D3+3. So it's just like the Einhir champion from Votann. The Scorpec Lord is like a bit of a monster in himself. He is T7. Obviously, when he's in the unit, he'll be T6 because, that's the overall unit toughness. But if he's ever on his own or you kill the Scorpex and he's still wandering around, he's T7. He's 7 wounds, 3 up, 4 up. He's also infantry. And then he has 4 attacks at 10, 2, 3, I believe. Or he could have like 8 OK sweep attacks. He's got a little gun. But it's really just like having access to that strength 10 flat 3 attack is very, very strong. And I think the biggest weakness of it is it hits on 2s, and it's 10-3-3. My apologies. EP3 is fantastic. But now when he's with the Scorpex, they give him full hit rerolls, which is tight. And then if you're playing Awakened Dynasties, when the Scorpec Lord is leading the Scorpex, they get +1 to hit, so they're hitting on 2s. So this is basically a unit that runs in, 2s, full rerolls, lethal hits, dev wounds, very efficient. Not huge amount of volume, but 12 attacks at 7/2/2, 4 attacks at 10/3/3 with charge mortals. Like it'll certainly hit something like more compact very hard.
And what's the Awakened Dynasties have a melee strat, right? Like +1 AP?
Yeah, so the Awakened Dynasties strat, which is probably like why these guys are so good in this attachment, it is, I forget the name of I think it's Hungry Void, Protocol the Hungry Void. It is +1 strength. And if you're being led by a character, it's addition +1 AP. So you could get these guys to 8/3/2.
And the Lord to 11/4/3.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
That's high.
He's also infantry, and Awakened Dynasties has the 1 CP resurrect an infantry character when it dies at the end of the phase with half its wounds remaining. So if you kill this Scorpec Lord in the fight phase, he'll pop back up on 4, heal D3, and then be wandering around. And if it's the Scorpec Lord with the 4 feel no pain, then funny, he's back. So yeah, I think that this unit is fantastic. And I think that like Awakened is one of the best homes for it, just because it has access to 2 fantastic stratagems for it. And the whole fusion of Scorpec buff to give him hit rerolls and his buff to give them +1 to hit is just really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's Scorpex. I mean, they're by far my favorite part of the list. I those who've been listening to our shows for a long time know that I love playing 18 Scorpex back in 9th edition. So I'm really excited to see them work out super well. But basically, how the rest of this game goes is me trying to position for secondaries and trying to be like, okay, well, I'm losing this game, but we're playing teams, so I'm just going to focus up and try to stem the bleeding. I'll deny points where I can, but most importantly, just set up for secondaries and try to make it as hard as possible to kill my remaining units. So it's a lot of my guys are really far away from you. They're running to the corners, this sort of thing. And unfortunately proceeds to be like, all right, you need like a 7-inch charge to come kill this unit. And he's like, I make it. And I'm like, bummer. And then I draw like the secondary they're set up for the next turn. I'm like, the worst happened is when I had 4 guys set up for signals and they were all like 7 or 8-inch charges away from his units. And then he lands all 4 of them. And then I draw signals the next turn. And I'm like, all right, dude, I guess I get 19-1. So it was one of those like, all right, we're playing for the loss, but the loss margin keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So, but kudos to Walter. I mean, he was smashing all weekend. I think he got like a 19 round 1, an 18 round 2, and a 19 round 3. So like, there's some sauce with this list if you pair it well. Obviously, its big weakness is like just getting lit up by shooting because like it's
not very durable.
That durable to shooting. But if you like, not like babysit it in pairings, but if you're like, somewhat aware of that in pairings, I think it's like I think it's different from Can Court, which has a lot more ties, and that it can get a lot more big wins because it does have that punch that Can Court's lacking. And another disgusting thing in this detachment is Xeris being infantry, so Xeris can come back to life the first time he dies.
Yeah,
which some armies just like
can't. For sure.
Oh yeah, some armies just can't deal with 2 Xerises. Yeah. And the Warriors with the fallback shoot and charge are fantastic because like one of the big weaknesses of Warriors is getting tagged. And all their strats are like so good. So I'm really excited to try out some Awakened. It's made me excited. I'm kind of crossing my fingers hoping Can Court gets punted into the sun so that I can go have an excuse to play around with Awakened. So yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. I mean, even if there are no changes, you can totally play this list. This list looks awesome, and I think it does.
Oh yeah,
very different and more helpful thing in Can Court. I want to go play this somewhere. This looks like fun as hell.
Oh, dude, Tyler's awake, dude. He's seeing the light. He's found a new army to play.
It's gonna be this or Tau. We'll see. One of those.
Come join me, dude. Come join me in the score pick layer. It's fantastic.
I'll need to borrow some scorps. I've only got my 3 and my Lord, but we'll make some.
Well, I've got 3 Lords. You can't have them, but you can have some scores.
All right, sounds good. Sweet. This is illegible. What the hell happened here? Anyway,
it's all right. Google enhance.
That was partially the joke, and you'll see why as you read down the list.
All right, so Lucas over here is playing into our boy Thomas Bird, one of everyone's favorite people. He's great. This is kind of a matchup with the Gentle Giants, as both of these men are quite large. Is Thomas taller than you? I don't remember how tall this man actually is. I just know that he's big.
I think he was.
Anyway, yeah. Both these dudes, very large, but also incredibly friendly and pleasant people. So great to have them pair into each other. Love Thomas Bird. Anyway, he's running a Harmacist with Fire Discipline. He's got a captain with the Honor Vehement. This is a Ultramarines Gladius, not Vanguard list. He's got Calgar himself, Ventress, 5 Assault Intercessors, 3 Blade Guard Vets. Let's go. I'm very curious to hear about how those guys did. The company heroes, 6 Eradicators, a singular Lancer, 6 Bolter Inceptors. That's a fun take. Lucas asks, does he have literally one of every Marine data sheet? Essentially. 5 Infiltrators, 5 Incursors, your mother. Land Raider Redeemer, and 2x5 Scouts. Is your mother just a joke, or is there a unit that you're referring to there?
No, there's just like 20 single data sheets in this army.
Hell yeah. All right. How did this game go, Lucas?
It was funny. Like yourself, I kind of discounted the impact of Purge the Foe. When my list's primary goal is to deny primary, it can be very annoying that my opponent's getting like 8 points every single turn on kill and kill more, especially because all of his squishy kills are like the scouts, and Thomas did a very intelligent job of keeping them in the back, not trying to teleport them around into my face to get points, and instead just setting them all the way back and not giving up kill and kill more. So yeah, that was very well done. This ends up being a pretty interesting game where, again, I like kind of full commit between turns 2 and 3, and we just kind of sit there grinding for a while, but eventually he's able to kill me at a much faster clip than I would have anticipated. The Bolter Inceptors in particular help a lot, and there's a lot of cool tech in here that I really like. In particular, the 5 Incursors and Lieutenant and Phobos armor. The Lieutenant and Phobos armor might be a little bit cute. He's a lot of points for a dude that just gives a D6 fire and fade. But the Incursors are definitely not cute, and I think that Marine players should be looking at this unit. It helps your army be less oath reliant because their datasheet rule is after they shoot you, they give every other unit in your army +1 to hit, and I'm pretty sure that works in melee as well. So you just choose one target to be +1 to hit against. So anyone else that shoots that unit is less oath dependent. And their guns are assault, I believe. Their melee is sustained hits. The lieutenant gives them lethal hits, so like they're not bad at just killing 5 shitters, just that, you know, in the skirmish wars that happen. With Gladius, they can do the reactive move. They get to fire and fade after they shoot, so they can hop out of the raider moves, they hop out, they shoot to apply +1 hit, they fire and fade back into the raider, rinse and repeat the next turn. It's very hard to actually tack down this unit and kill them, and they're very cheap as well. And Cursor is also Scout 5, so there's just a lot of utility in this unit, and it's fairly cheap. 80 points for 5 cursors. So
wait, they Scout 5?
Sorry, they Scout 6.
Okay, gotcha.
Don't know why I said that, but yeah. Just
that doesn't let the Raider scout, right? Because he's not a dedicated transport.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There was a lot of funny moments in this game. Namely, the Eradicators just repeatedly doing nothing, because hitting on 4s and wounding on 3s, 5-up rerolling invulns. He's like, I fire the Eradicator brick with fire discipline. This unit kills 2 Plague Burst crawlers in 1 turn. And I'm like, all right, sick, dude. You killed 2 orc boys.
Fuck Tide. Oh my gosh.
Very funny.
Was he never able to line them up into the wagon?
I gave him the Mega Knobs. So they did pretty good job there. Especially with the lethal and sustain from Devastator Doctrine, Fire Discipline. Managed to melt most of the Mega Knobs. But then they just spent the rest of the game kind of pillow fisting with boys, which I thought was pretty cool. But the Bolter Inceptors were really the breadwinner for him here, just like zipping around, reactive moving, not giving up easy charges, and then gunning down 20 orcs at a time. So ends up being a tie game, 10-10. When he wins by 5 in terms of primary. And really, like I said, the thing I didn't account for is Purge the Foe. Usually I'm trying to crush a Marine list like this on primary by 20 to 25 points, and instead I lost by 8 because I was giving up kill and killed more every single turn. So that was definitely something I did not account for. But well played to Thomas. Also cool to see someone actually man up and play fixed against Tide. I think that's usually the right call. It can be a little scary because Homer is a little sketchy, but Assassinate is just leaving points on the table if you don't take that. So cool to see it work out pretty decently for him, and a really fun game overall. He's a very pleasant opponent, and I had a lot of fun. And this is the 4th Redeemer I've played against this weekend. So all 3 of my games were against, I guess the Space Marines list was like infantry dudes, but most of my games this weekend were against hull spam with good armor saves. So glad that I did well despite that, even though that's a weakness for Tide. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I feel like I got into what I'm designed to deal with, and you got into whatever was available. Just kept playing into power and bodies.
Then I got haha funny. You 2 kiss.
Exactly.
Robots in the corner, dude.
Yeah. In round 2, there's a funny moment where we're looking around. We're like, what do we do here? And I'm like, we offer them the mirror, and we we offer them the mirror and we bet on Nick. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like, all right, fair enough. And I was like, it went great. And the next round, I'm like, we offer them the mirror again. And they're like, you sure? This seems like not a great matchup. And I'm like, it's going to be great. It was not great. I apologize.
Both sides of the coin.
For that.
Womp womp.
We got the 18-point mirror and the 1-point mirror.
I was like, I don't know. Exactly. I think he might beat me on primary. And then he like fucking killed me. And I'm like, oh, damn, dude, he did.
I'm dead.
All right. Sweet. So that ends up being around there. We end up on what, the upside of a draw in Pro Tabletop?
Yeah, I think we were like 2 or 3 points.
I think we got 82 points or something like that.
Gotcha. That sounds about right. Cool. Well, I did. That's definitely at least partially my fault. But I'm just following orders.
Part of everyone's fault.
If Captain says to push, we're gonna push. But yes, that was fun. This event overall was a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love getting to play an invitational like this with lots of high caliber players doing the teams thing. Really excited to get to be, this is for Nick and I, this is our first time playing on the ground for USA in a team setting, which was tons of fun. Really enjoyed that. You guys have any other last thoughts before I run some plugs and start answering some questions?
Let's do that.
Sweet. All right. So a couple of plugs. Check out the description. I realized I didn't put it in beforehand, so if you're watching live, you'll have to wait until I edit the description like 5 minutes after the show goes up. Check out some of our fantastic sponsors, such as Red Dragon Games, where you can get at all sorts of goodies, including some of our own merch that is sold through them now. We sell our objective markers. If you love cranking that hog, we have objective markers and dice for that. So go buy them. We have more merch for some of the new and updated stuff coming in soon. We're going to have mats with the new deployment zones on them. Those will be coming out soon. Those are going to be great. So you don't have to measure that because it's so much easier now. Trust me, you don't need it on the mat. It'll be on the mat anyway. Don't worry about it. If you are interested in purchasing terrain, we have all sorts of different things that we recommend to you. If you want WTC terrain that is what we put on WTC, check out Wayland Yutani. If you want game aids and all sorts of other assorted goodies, check out 2 different Etsy stores here that we're repping now. One of which is they sell stat check specific stuff, which is, oh man, why do I always mess up the names for these things? Saltire Games. There we go on Etsy. Link in the description. And then also you got to check out, if you're looking for GW style terrain, check out J15 Games on Etsy. J15 also sells those sick magnetic laser cut triple movement gauge things that everyone seems to have these days. They're really sick. Check them out. If you play World Leaders, he has the best tithe tracker. It's great. Check that out as well. In addition to those things, I also want to shill, not a sponsor of this show, but a sponsor of Team USA, is that Frontline Gaming has put out their very own set of WTC terrain. You can see it over here. It looks super sexy. We talk about FLG events and have mixed feelings on them a lot, but one thing that we do not have mixed feelings on is their physical products. They are some of the best in the industry. We have complaints about their terrain formats, but their physical terrain, incredible. It's pre-printed with color on it, so you don't need to paint it. It's easy to assemble, and they're now making WTC sets, which is awesome. So check this set out here. A portion of those funds do go toward Team USA. A cost involved in WTC, so we really appreciate it if you'll check it out, but also just like, it's the best looking WTC terrain on the market for sure. And it's at a pretty reasonable price right now. It's on sale for only $259 for a full table. They have neoprene bases, so they're not going to slide around like the acrylics do. And it's a great set. It's gorgeous. And yeah, I highly recommend it. Shout out to FLG, who will be using these at Champs Cup this year and also at some of their open events as well, I'm told. We'll see if that actually plays out. Really sick. Cool terrain set. Yeah, so highly recommend you check all of that good stuff out. Anyway, also, while we're here plugging stuff, make sure to check the rest of the shows on the network, including Stat Check, Enter the Matrix, which will be back soon. Champions of 40K, Stat Check, Enter the Matrix. Oh, X and 1 will be back soon. Enter the Matrix never left. Check out all those other shows. They're great. And if you're interested in coaching, check out stat-check.com/coaching to see who's able to help you out over there. So
there now.
He is. You can get from this guy.
Teach you Warhammer and talk to you about it.
It'll be great. All right, so let's jump into some listener questions here. If you want to submit your own listener questions or support the show in general, you can check out our Patreon, also linked in the description, where we have a channel for such questions. Also, if you're watching live, you can super chat where we will answer those questions as well, or you can just comment and see how long these take. I am feeling funny from all of the whiskey, so I want to be out of here quickly. So we probably will not get to any of those unless you super chat. So one guy, John, asks in the Discord, so how about that GSC stuff, Tyler? Are we all Muscle Beach gang? How does it feel for us to get the AdMech writer? It feels horrible. I'm so mad. This book is bad. I knew it was going to be bad, but it's worse than I thought, and I hate it. I did just pre-order the special edition copy though, because it's very pretty, and I want that I want that book on my shelf. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to find something in this book. I'll let y'all know if I do, but I think it's very premature to try to make builds right now when we don't have points, because like AdMech, the thing that is going to make this book even vaguely viable is being very, very cheap. Excuse me. So until we know what those numbers are, like I have no idea. If neophytes are 60 points for 10, then we're probably taking 120 of them. Like, that's just how it is. But if they're 160 points for 20, we're not taking any of them. So the builds will be determined by the points, but in general, there's a lot of fun stuff in there. If you live and die by Muscle Beach and you don't care about your win rate, that detachment is good. It's just a good detachment. You should play it. You'll have fun. The charge mods are very cool. Have fun with that. I personally am not really about that life. I think there's a lot of armies that do that kind of thing better than we do, particularly Blood Angels and World Leaders, and even Custodies, frankly. But, go nuts. You'll hear more about GSC in the future, but we're going to hold off on that until we have points, basically. All right. Steven asks, I'm going to go ahead and start actually putting these up like I'm supposed to do. Steven asks, what things do you expect the new data slate to change? Because remember, there is a data slate and an MFM coming out in a moment. Do you expect any rug pulls? Do we welcome our AdMech overlords? Nick, what do you think about this?
If I was a betting man, I would expect probably... I mean, I don't know. A lot of people are saying like they expect like T-Sun's point changes and Necron's point changes because people don't think that Canoptic Court's done enough. It feels like we literally just got a slate. If anything, I think this is since it's a rules slate and the next one's going to be a point slate, I think this is a time to examine the past, 4 codexes that have come out? Custodies, Orcs, Tau, and CSM. And maybe tweak some of the rules there that some of the rules interactions there that people have found that are either too strong or like not strong enough. So if I was a betting man, I'd expect like some minor changes to maybe like how Warp Talons work, or like how some of the Green Tide stratagems work, or some of the Bully Boys stuff and how that works. Maybe Mega Knobs. I'd expect Mega Knobs to go up in points, or their Feel No Pain to get changed. One of the two, maybe both. What else am I thinking? Camcourt probably would get like a light tap. Maybe the 12-inch loan op goes to 18. Just to like make it a little more consistent. Like they've done that in the past with reactive 12-inch loan ops. But yeah, obviously this AdMech rewrite, which they've talked about, pretty cool. And that's kind of like the stuff at face value. I think that there's some armies that are in this weird spot right now where they're not like, I mean, they're in a bounce spot. They're not bad, and they're not like very strong meta overlords, but I do think that if some of those top guys, like some of the stronger interactions aren't corrected, we're gonna see those guys continue to just stay in the mid. So like maybe GW will see ahead and buff up some of their stuff, whether that be like I expect like points changes there. There's a lot of these like mid armies that I don't think need like huge rules changes, especially because like they're still on Index Hammer. So, but yeah, with the kind of influx of like Tau and CSM, it feels like that like really high damage that we had at the start of 10th, not quite that high, but it feels like that damage is starting to creep back up again. So I'd expect something to maybe tone that down, or maybe that's just kind of more what I'm hoping for. So,
in my opinion, what I would really like to see, and well, the question is, what do I expect the new data slate to change? I think they're going to go in and target a bunch of data sheets. What I would much rather they do is go in and target things and detachments, because I love the variety that is in a lot of these newer books, especially books like Orcs and CSM that have a ton of detachments, lots of which are viable or fringe viable. I would much rather they go in and, with a fairly decent hammer, bonk some of those best detachments like Canoptic Cord and Bully Boys and maybe Green Tide and Red Corsairs, maybe a little bit. Like, take those down a fair bit, and then we'll see more of the cool experimentation like Nick played against last weekend, right? We'll see more people playing Awakened Dynasties. We'll see more people playing Warhorde. We'll see more people playing Black Legion. And we'll see more people trying out. I mean, I think the Marine book is a great example of, yeah, the best builds are probably Blood Angels and Iron Storm, but you can definitely still make a very good Stormlance list. You can definitely still make an excellent Gladius list. You can make fantastic Firestorm lists. Like, almost every detachment in that book is playable. Vanguard is excellent. I think we want more books like that. And I think that's kind of a direct consequence of, the Marine book has been out for a little bit longer, so they've had more time to kind of tweak those units to be, the detachments to be in the exact right spot. So I'd rather they go in and hit some of the worst offender detachments so that people can still play with the same amount of stuff. Maybe it's just a little bit less effective. I've heard some rumblings that Mega Knobs might get their Feel No Pain bumped. I think that's totally fine to bump them to a 5. I personally would keep them at 30 points per model then. I think 35 and a 5 at Feel No Pain is a little bit harsh, but I will happily admit that I'm a little bit biased in that because I play orcs. So, you know, I would much rather they maybe go in and tone back some Bully Boy stuff while bumping the Mega Knobs to a 5 at Feel No Pain, and I think that's totally fine fixes for orcs. Maybe if you're worried about Green Tide, you change a couple of the stratagems a little bit and leave it at that. So that's what I would expect and hope is going to change.
I respect the thought on not hitting data sheets quite as hard as detachments, but I also don't think that Marines is the best example of that, given how many times Plasceptors had to get hit to be in a reasonable place where, like, Kasra can still comfortably take 12 of them, but they're not an auto 3 of in every single detachment, no matter what.
Didn't they just get the one fairly big hike in January?
I think they got hiked twice. They only got hiked once?
I could be misremembering.
Anyway, whatever the case, I think it's fairly reasonable. We'll see what happens. I'm really hoping we get some more buffs than nerfs in the slate, because it seems like for a while we were kind of riding the track of we're not going to go crazy with power creep. We're not going to go crazy with power creep. Codices are going to be side grady, and we're going to try to bring everybody else up. We're going to try to bring things up and down and keep it neutral. And then we got Orcs, CSM, and Sisters like back to back to back. And those 3 codices are insane. And if they don't all get really heavily beat down, we're going to need some serious buffs on the low end to be able to compete. So we'll see what happens. But we haven't really even seen what a CSM meta looks like. And we've seen that Bully Boys have been stomping face. And I think suddenly when you have 3 codices in what feels like a very different power tier than the rest of the game, I'm curious to see what happens. So we'll see. All right, next question. And I should be citing these so that people get their flowers. Coming from Paul, yes, Chef Daddy Yunsen. What do you guys plan on doing for the 3 months until Sisters get nerfed? Crusade, Old World, AOS 4? I know what Nick's going to be doing.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Play some Spooderman.
Playing some Spider-Mans, dude. No, I think that, like, the nice thing about, like, when singles is not that fun to play, because, you know, half the games you end up in, you just get fucking blown off the table. At least for us, like, I'm going to focus more on teams, right? We got WTC coming up. We got our own Dallas Champs Cup event coming up very shortly after that. So I want to focus on, like, okay, you know, obviously these, like, very strong armies are going to exist in the game. I mean, like, you know, we got the slate coming out in 2 weeks, but at this point, very strong armies are going to exist in the game. Think about, like, what do we do as a team then when we have to play against them? Like, what can I make that can either, like, blunt those armies or, like, make to try to, like, pick on some of the other armies? So that's more what I'm going to focus on. That's more where my motivation's going to go. I'm not, like, super interested in going to a tournament and, like, instantly losing to someone tabling me. But yeah, that's more what I'm going to focus on for sure.
Sweet.
Also, Marvel Crisis Protocol, because that game's awesome.
Lucas, did I cut you off there?
It's fine.
Cool. All right. Next question. This is actually a good question that I'm actually very excited to talk about. Comparing the Wargames live experience and the tabletop life experience, what does each do better? What can they learn from each other? It seems like there are still a lot of barriers to 40K as an esport. That leads in the next question. So before we get there, how would you compare the Wargames live to the tabletop live stream experience? Lucas, you've been on stream for both of these more than either of us. What do you think?
I mean, I more or less feel like they're kind of approximately the same in quality. I personally prefer being on the Wargames live stream a little bit more. I feel like it's a little bit more. And I mean, a lot of this is because Joe really just goes from, like, local GT or major to local GT or major and just shows people playing cool games of Warhammer. So I feel like it's a lot more relatable than just seeing the best teams in America all of a sudden out of nowhere, just, like, playing at a convention. You know, it's a little bit more relatable for most players. and his stream quality is also very high. Joe's stream at War Games Live, so I prefer his. But I think Tabletop Life did a fine job. Yeah, there's not a ton to say other than that. So I think they both do a fine job. Not a lot of difference.
Okay, cool. It feels like there's still a lot of barriers to 40K as an esport. What are the biggest hurdles to overcome? And then as a specific example, miking players or not miking players. What are your thoughts? Mic players, do that.
Yeah, absolutely mic players.
Yeah.
It turns out that people that are playing the game will do a better job talking about it than someone who probably does not know the rules that are involved. And it's just there to entertain.
If you happen to have one or two people who know both armies very well, commentary can be really great. And outside of that exact situation, it is usually terrible. I think Joe does a really good job in particular of being entertaining and enjoyable and keeping up with what's going on, while most of his commentary is baseball commentary, where he is just talking, so that when Warhammer is not exciting to watch, it doesn't have to be. I think that's the path forward. I understand that there's some level of liability that's involved in miking players or not. You got to spell out your standards. You got to have pretty strict penalties for them if you need players to talk in a certain way. But also, as high-level competitive, semi-professional players, like, you need to adhere to the standards of the thing that you're a part of, because, like, at the end of the day, we're doing this, especially at an event like this, as an exhibition for other people, not just for our own personal amusement. So players need to get over that. If they're asked not to swear or drink or whatever on stream, follow the rules.
In terms of biggest hurdles to overcome really quick regarding esports, I feel like this is a very challenging one to resolve, because 40K is just less exciting than esports, right? Like, when you're watching even League of Legends or like the best examples are like Valorant, Counter-Strike, Overwatch, where the rounds are going by quickly and action is constant, interrupted by like short periods of break, so you can kind of like rest and like the action is paced at like exactly the right tempo for people to be constantly excited for long periods of time. Warhammer is like 3 or 4 hours of mostly just like sitting and thinking, and a bunch of dice rolls that if you're seeing from an overhead camera, you're probably not seeing very well, or you're only catching like snippets of. So the biggest hurdle is just like maintaining interest throughout the game. And I feel like Joe's stream does a very good job of this, where he's like talking about other things, or maybe chat gets off topic to talk about other stuff. And I think that's absolutely fantastic to do while at tournament games, because trying to focus on the game for the whole time is just a recipe for people to become less interested over time. Just because the games drag on for so long and there's so much like dead time. So I'm not sure how to resolve this issue. It's a difficult one, because like it's just kind of inherent to the game that we're playing when we play Warhammer. There's like a lot of sitting around and thinking and dead time on air. But if we can try to find a way to engage people throughout the course of the game, that's maybe not all related to that game, I think that's kind of the getting our foot in the door to resolving that issue. What do you guys think?
I think that GW has the right idea here, but not a great execution on the let's make sure that we have 2 to 3 games on stream at all times, so that, wow, this is going to be really boring while this guy thinks about his shooting phase for 10 minutes. Click right over to the other one. The problem is that you need incredibly effective commentators to make that actually work, who can analyze a game state from a top down really quickly and provide interesting and useful commentary. Because very often, like Paul Murphy, bless his soul, not because he's dead, but because he's trying to do a thing that he's just not physically capable of doing, is trying to commentate on 2 different games where he has not played Warhammer at all in a year, as far as I can tell. Or if he has, just not at this level or with these armies, and he's just trying to make sense of it. If you had, that's why they try to have Nick on there at least. Like, you need the people who really know what's up to make sense of it. But I think that's probably the best solution to the dead time problem, is having multiple games to flick through. And 2 might not be enough. It might need to be like 6, frankly, to be sufficiently exciting.
Or somewhere between like 3 or 4 games, right? Where you can have 6 different armies, and every game you're playing, like, here's a shooting angles game, here's a melee brawling game, here's a pressure versus late game defense type of game. And you're going through 3 different entire things, so people are more excited about it throughout the course of the 4 hours, right?
I honestly wonder if the right thing isn't to like delay everything and then be able to have table bosses at the various tables saying, okay, we should jump to this now. so that you have a couple minutes lead so that you get to see all the most exciting parts of all the games. Because why the hell do I care if the game is happened 20 minutes ago as opposed to this exact instant? Like, especially because chat isn't communicating with what's happening on stream. It's just happening there. Like, you could even have Joe or someone like that, commentators in their booth, just getting fed stuff 20 minutes late. So they're seeing it as live as the viewers. Like, there's ways that you can make this happen, but they're way more complicated and expensive than what we're doing right now. So I think a guy jumping between 2 or 3 games is probably as good as it's going to get in the near term.
That also cuts down all the stupid, like, oh, what's happening? Oh, I thought I knew what's happening, but now, I'm not quite sure about that. And all that stupid, like, commentator not quite sure what's happening and changing his mind on. That shit is so annoying to me.
Totally. I think there also needs to be some way to communicate more effectively to the camera what units are standing where, because this is such a frustrating thing when watching commentary when they're like, oh yeah, there's some Marines of some kind over there. I can't really tell. Are those Van Vets? Maybe they're Assault Marine? I don't like. I wonder if there's something with like some kind of squad mark, something with some level of coloring that could avoid that. I don't know. But there needs to be more active communication between the tables and the commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, next question asks about Zach's Blood Angels list. This was a sick list. What are its strengths and weaknesses, and would you change anything about it? Lucas, you're the closest to a Blood Angel player, I think.
Yeah, sure. Let me pull it up really quick so I can just run down the whole thing really quickly.
Totally. It's linked in the comments thread if you go there.
Yeah. 2 seconds, please. Cool. So Zach was playing Blood Angels. He's got Wi-Fi, please. We got 2 captains with Power Fists, a chaplain with Jump Pack, Lamarties, and the Sanguinor. He's got 2 squads of 5 Assault Intercessors. He's got 10 Assault Intercessors, 15 Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs, so 3 squads of 5 Skirmishers, 2 squads of 10 Death Company Marines with Jump Packs, 5 Infiltrators, a Land Raider Redeemer, and 3 squads of Scouts. So this list is, I think, Blood Angels are really fascinating because there's a lot of good units in there, and it's one of the, there are some lists where you feel like you take all of the pieces that you want to take, and then you're kind of just cramming garbage into the last couple of points to try to fill it. Blood Angels, in particular, is one where every unit you have available is excellent. Like, in particular here, he's not taking any Jump Pack Intercessor or Vanguard Veteran bricks with the Sanguinary Priest, and those units are amazing. So, like, there are a plethora of good options, and all of them improve or make worse your matchups in different areas. And I think that whole dynamic is really fascinating. So I think what Zach's list is really strong at is it's very good at like big brick brawling, because Blood Angels have 2 CP fight on death. Some units make much better use of that than others. In particular, all of the Intercessor and Vanguard Veteran type guys don't get a lot out of it because they really want like the +2 and 3 strength from charging to wound things well. If you just fight on death with some strength 4 chainswords, you're not getting much. Death Company, however, have reroll hits natively. They're strength 8 natively. They get lethal hits from the Marties natively. Their fight on death is very, very valuable. So these big 10-man squads, like just fighting into other 10-man squads, both in the Blood Angel turn and then on fight on death, is very powerful. The Land Raider kind of doubles down on this because it's like a concentration of power where you can just go and do a ton of stuff in one spot that I really like. That does make you much weaker to like focused anti-tank. It plummets your T-Sons matchup into the dirt, unfortunately. So it has some downsides. But in terms of like, if this list was to go up against like Bully Boys or something like that, I think it has a serious fighting chance of just like winning the straight up brawl, because the Death Company could just go in and clock 5 Mega Knobs in the face, and then on the fight on death, take out another 3 or 4. So like, just the sheer amount of damage that this list can bring to bear is pretty nasty if you're just smashing bricks into each other. And having 3 squads of Scouts, great. Sanguinor, fantastic. It still has the periphery pieces that you really want out of Blood Angels. So I like the list. Would I change anything about it? It really just depends what matchups you want to be good into.
Yep, totally. All right, next question comes in from... I got to keep these things in front of me. Pierce asks, what is the most fun about the GSC book? What are the biggest weaknesses of the GSC book? Weaknesses are easy first. They have 0 damage. 0. The most fun, I don't know. Charge strats, I guess. All right. Lucas, question from Nathan B. asks, what are the biggest learnings from running Green Tide at the event? Matchups, most valuable units, what's on the cutting room floor?
Biggest learnings is I needed more trash, like urgently. Just the addition of Snickrot, 3 bikes, and 5 Stormboys to my more recent Green Tide games have been invaluable. Like +3 units as opposed to the truck full of Mega Knobs just makes the scoring floor so much better. It also means that I don't have to have awkward scenarios where I'm like trying to screen with a 20-man boy squad without getting it charged or shot, which like is almost always impossible. You have a lot more disposable garbage. So I needed more trash. And I think the easy place to cut is the Mega Knobs. So that's what I've done. Matchups, I was surprised how well I did into the hull-based matchups. And I think I was thinking about it in terms of, Green Tide doesn't have the damage to cut through those armies. And that's not really relevant. What's more relevant is as soon as you're in combat with hulls, they have to make all sorts of very awkward decisions about where to fall back and what to shoot at. Because a lot of hulls right now are like movement 10. You can kind of trap them up against walls and be like, okay, if you want to fall back, then not only are you not shooting with that hull, but I'm also going to Blood Surge your first activation and re-engage your tank. And I think Tide has very powerful, strong matchups into just like durable 2-up and 3-up armor spam lists because they just don't have the activations and the flexibility to engage you on their terms and just like wipe out your units with a couple of exceptions. So what I thought the shooting-based hull lists that I thought were going to be really bad matchups actually ended up being very good matchups. And I'm starting to get a little more scared of things like World Leaders and Blood Angels, which just have the volume of attacks and decent enough defense to win the attrition fight quickly. So that's kind of where I'm at with Tide right now. Still having an absolute blast. Real wins for 1 CP is broken.
Checks out. This then comes in next not so much questions, a comment coming from John Johnson, who says, now that my Slay Queen Hierophant is almost complete, I'm genuinely considering taking it and Tyranids to Nova with the list idea we came up with a couple months ago. Hopefully the data slate adds some new life. That's awesome, John. If you're in our Discord, make sure to go into the Tyranids chat to check out the video that he posted in there. He's calling it a Slay Queen Hierophant. I can't put this video up on here for copyright reasons, but his I think it's his wife saw the Hierophant on the desk and put some little, like, I don't know, Barbie or Polly Pocket, some kind of little doll, high heels in the front scything talons, and then made a little TikTok filming that with the Nicki Minaj song with the high heels on my tippies. It's adorable. It's very funny. I highly recommend you check that out if you're in the Discord. If you're not, just give us $5 a month so you can check it out in the Discord. But hell yeah, John, let us know how that goes. We're talking about 20 Cormagons bursting out of this thing going, 13 plus D6 and charging places. Like, it's very funny. Hopefully something good comes for Tyranids to make that list even better, because that's awesome. I love my Hierophant. I'd love to put it on the table. It's generally a bad thing when a model that big gets on the table, but, give me something. All right. Next question coming up. A whole bunch of stuff here from Derek. Asks, there's so much new stuff being thrown at us right now. It's crazy. Wild levels of new information. My group is doom spiraling about how units that can go up to 20 models shouldn't have the option to take less, i.e. pay for the 11, 20 and bring 19. My was that if you can kill that many anyway, you'll be able to win the game with the other secondaries rather than forcing orcs to live in the old world of sad Tau, bring it down noises. I'm assuming that they're making a mountain out of a molehill, but in your opinions, is the ability to be a 19 out of 20 models crazy and the thing that's going to make Horde OP nonsense? So for those of y'all who are not familiar, there is a secondary that can be taken as fixed in the new Pariah Next missions called Cull the Horde. It says that every time you kill a unit that had a starting strength of 20 or greater before you attach characters to it, you get 5 points. 5 for killing a unit, which with Endless Swarm Gargoyles, for example, just means you get 20 points. Or with Horde Orcs, you get 20 points for basically playing the game. You can get around this, however, as this was Derek. As Derek points out, by just taking 19-man units instead of 20s, paying the full points cost, but now I'm 19. So I don't care. This has always been a problem in 40K. Whenever there's a thing around units of particular sizes or wound counts of particular amounts, like, you're always going to gamify it to try to get around it where it's modifiable. This secondary is stupid, and I hate it. So I fully support it being able to be bullshitted around.
Aren't
thoughts?
you only allowed to take one understrength unit? Or am I crazy?
It's not an under strength unit. You're just buying a unit in the 11 to 20 range, which costs that amount of points.
Oh.
Under
I think
strength
that's
is
a
if
dumb
you
way to get around a secondary, but also maybe that secondary shouldn't give you so many points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly
The combination of bring it down going to 2 for armigers size things, and that is crazy. You need to kill 10 armigers to get bring it down. You need to kill 4 units of orc boys to get max coal. Stop.
Yeah.
Cool,
Stop it,
dude.
Let's bring back no prisoners, dude. Let's do the fucking.
In terms of point comparison, by the way, killing 10 armigers is like 1,600 points, and killing 80 orc boys is like 700. So more than
killing
twice
80
as many
termagants is under 500.
The secondary
also
is
when you're printing that secondary and then reducing bring it down, and then you're releasing a mission pack that incentivizes more like, I don't know, stat spam pressure, right? Like you're already, the horde right doesn't really do a lot of damage. Green Tide can because of full wound rerolls, right? But the gargoyles don't do any damage, right? And it's like now you're mega punishing it when it's not even that strong of a playstyle anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that sure, get around it, that's fine, but I think that that's like a dumb thing you can do. Again, I don't know.
Maybe something else to keep in mind if you're just to like dig a little bit deeper, because a lot of people have seen, I just take 19s, but like let's think about it a little bit further. First off, don't take all 19s because you just need to disincentivize the fixed here. So if you're playing, for example, 4 units of 20 boys, or Lucas plays 5 units of 20 boys, if you drop that down to 19, 19, 19, 20, 20, you get to keep the 20th in those 2 extra squads. They're not going to take fixed for 10. Right? That's not real. With the Gargs, you have to make that Gargoyle squad 19 because they're going to die several times over, but that's fine. But also, if you're doing this, definitely don't make all of them 19. Keep a 20 around. If you're a NIDS player, it'll be your Neurogons in the backfield so that the card isn't a dead draw, because you can redraw a lot of dead draws, this one included in the new pack. So saying, yes, you get this, but you have to kill my backfield, right? So like, this is stupid and complicated and a mess, and the secondary should never have been printed. But these are the kind of things that we'll talk about a lot more in the coming weeks as we break it down and figure out more of the tips and tricks. But that's your off the cuff hot tech for the Pariah Nexus missions.
What the fuck was that?
I've had a lot to drink, and
I can't wait to put one Cyclops in every list to deny my opponent recycling. Bring it down, dude.
It's going to be great, but I also love how that Cyclops gives up as much bring it down as an Armiger, a totally normal thing. Or
also like as much as a 15, like 14 and 15 wound vehicles, like a Tyrannofex. Maliceptor.
T-Vex is 16 wounds. A Maliceptor, Maliceptor, 14 wounds. Cyclops blows up when you get close.
Can we like drop the points on Sagittarius now that they got nerfed? You know, now that they don't have their one advantage over rhinos anymore, dude.
No, bad.
100 points Sagittarius. Let's go, dude. Bring it back.
Anyway, we're gonna talk more about all the nonsense in the future. I don't know if I'll be able to be on the show next week. I don't think I will be able to be because I'm gonna have family in time for my graduation. But we'll figure something out. Maybe we'll do a midweek show or something when we have a little bit more detail. Who knows? Maybe these guys will find someone who's less salty to talk to. But whatever the case, thanks so much for listening through this. We'll be back in the future with more nonsense. Check out the bit reps. Check out the stuff linked below. Check out that FLGWTC setup. It's very pretty. Anything else from you guys before we sign off for the week? No.
Homie wants us to answer his Sons of Rust question.
Sons of Rust. Oh, rules question. Yes. Champions of Rust, Warrior Pride. Does it activate the second line of Champions Rust stratagem? I don't know what the stratagem is.
Warrior.
Yeah, probably better to ask in the Discord because none of us play Champions of Rust. Sorry.
Do you guys know there's 2 stratagems called Warrior Pride?
Yeah, this Space Wolves and the
Votann one.
Select one saga that has not yet been completed by your army until the end of the turn. Models in your character's unit have the benefit of selected sagas if it had been completed by your army.
Does it activate the second line on other Champions of Rust stratagems? Example, Relentless Aggression, Advanced and Charge.
Oh, because I'm sure they proc off of it being the right saga.
Yes.
That is not a question
No, yeah, it works because it's been completed by your army. So if it's been completed by your army, you get the souped up version of the other stratagems.
As if it had been completed by your army. Get the benefit of it as if it had been? Maybe. Ask your local TOS, Curie. Lucas says yes. It probably works. But I don't want to sign off on that. I'm not a judge. Anyway, best of luck with that. Anyway, with that all being said and done, thank you so much for joining us. I've been Tyler. But we'll see you in the future. Have a great day. Go play some terrible missions. It's going to be fun.